Oh, there she is. Hi, Liz. I couldn't see you.
There she is.
She's saying I'm live. Oh, well, I am live. Okay. Welcome to the October 6th City Council meeting. I am Jim Nash. I am the City Council President, and I will be presiding this evening. Before we begin, I want to let everyone know that this meeting and all participating on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. I now call the City Council to order. Laura, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilor Nash, I'm sorry, Councilor Elkins.
Here.
Starting the wrong order. Okay, Councilor Foster.
Here.
Councilor Gore.
Here.
Councilor Jarrett.
Here.
Councilor Labarge.
I know she's here
I
somewhere.
know she's here too.
Here.
Okay, Councilor Maori.
Here.
Councilor Moulton.
Here.
Councilor Nash is here as we've heard. Councilor Perry.
Here.
Okay, Council President, you have a quorum.
Terrific. Okay, now that we are convened, the first two items on our agenda this evening are two poll petitions. Poll petitions are council rules instruct us to first hold these publicly advertised hearings. Once the hearings are complete, we will then open public comment. I thank everyone who is here to speak for your patience as we hold these hearings. So, on the agenda, let's see. We have a public hearing on 22.157 National Grid Verizon poll petition for Willow Street. Let's see. Per Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, the Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. on National Grid's poll petition to install one stub, did I get that right? Stub pole on Willow Street. The City Council will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. And I'm hoping that Lisa's here somewhere in all of this. If we could unmute Lisa.
Yeah, let me make her.
Oh, I see her with her hand up.
Hmm.
Lisa, just, I think
Maybe she's not in alphabetical order. Is it something other than Lisa?
I could unmute her.
Hey, as I have a request to folks that if you're here to listen in right now, if you could turn your video off, it makes it hard to manage. I really appreciate that. Thank you, folks. And we'll be able to find Lisa easier. Oh, there she is.
Oh, you know what?
Here.
Maybe
She's here.
is the last name different?
I think it usually comes up as National Grid. I don't know if it just says,
Oh, Zark. Okay.
it should say Jasinski.
Councilor Nash, just a point of order. Should we open the public hearing?
Oh, thank you. That's a great point of order. Could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Councilor Moulton made the motion. Who seconded that?
I did, Councilor Foster.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Foster. Any discussion on opening the public hearing? Hearing none. Laura, roll call on the public hearing.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Councilor Gore.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Nash.
Yes.
And Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. Thank you, Councilor Jarrett. And that, so Lisa, you're here as a proponent of this order to having to do with a poll on Willow Street. Would you like to speak to it? And Laura, could you pull especially the map, I think would be helpful for everybody.
Sure.
Let me know when you're ready. Will that show up on the screen, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, or I think Laura will pull this off. There we go. All right, so we have a map and we have some dots on here. Lisa, could you explain what these are?
I can. It's the very end of Willow Street. It's where it kind of comes to a dead end. It's just past where it meets Bliss on the far end of the roads. And right now there's a tree guy. It used to be an old way of guying line construction. We try to avoid it these days, but back in the days, that's what they did quite a bit. And right now that tree guy is stuck to what's remaining of a tree's trunk, and that's going to be removed. So we're going to put a pole and a down guy in its place to support the wires across the street because of the curve. I did speak with the person who lived there, and they were fine with the placement, and I think it was going to be happy to have the rest of that gone at some point. The tree, that is.
Okay. So Lisa is a proponent. Is there anybody here who is a proponent or an opponent of this particular poll petition? Let's take a look through the screens here. I'm not seeing any hands raised.
There's a couple
Oh, I
of hands
see.
raised, Counselor. I don't know if you may not be able to see them yet.
I see, it looks like Nancy has her hand raised. Nancy, is your hand raised in reference to this poll petition? All right, I'll ask her to unmute. And then Tusi, I see your hand raised as well. Has to unmute. Nancy?
Hi, I'm just here for public comments.
Okay, great. Okay. And then we'll move on to Tusi. Okay.
Hi, I'm the person who lives right where the pole is going to be.
Excellent.
And I just wanted to know, like, how tall will the pole be? Do we know?
It is the pole is 35 feet tall, and it's set in the ground about 5.5 feet. So it's about 30 feet out of the ground.
Okay.
It's not as tall as the ones across the street.
Okay. And it will be right where the tree was. Where you have
Yes.
that? Okay.
We discussed
All right.
it. I don't know if the stake is still there. I should, I can go back out there too and show you, but we talked
Okay.
about it right where that tree is going to be. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much. I'm fine.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, and I think Tusi's questions have been answered. Is there anybody else out there that I'm not seeing? Okay, counselors, do you have any questions for Lisa before we consider closing the public hearing? Counselor Jarrett.
Thank you, and thank you, Lisa. I just wanted to note, you clarified that because Bliss Street and Willow Street intersect twice. So you clarified that this was the end of the street. So I don't know if that needs to be clarified in the documents at all, but thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Okay. Counselors, I'm not seeing any more hands for discussion or questions. I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Motion made by Counselor Labarge,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Moulton. Any discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, the item related to that poll petition, 22.157, is to be found in our consent agenda, and it is up for approval tonight. And we'll move on to the next item here. Public hearing on 22.152 National Grid poll petition to relocate one pole and remove another on Holly Street. Per Mass General Law, the Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 6th, 2022 at 7:15 PM. We got 4 minutes. So we have 4 minutes till we can start this public hearing. And I am going to do a quick, no, I'm not going to take things out of order.
Well, then maybe you should do a soft shoe or something.
Yeah, I'll do a soft shoe.
Not the same
So
thing,
anyway,
right?
so counselors, feel free to take a break until 7:15.
Okay.
Thank you.
You enjoyed your little break there, your little public hearing break. Now we're back. Okay. Thursday, October 6th, 2022. This has to do with item 22.152. We're holding a hearing on National Grid's petition to relocate one pole 17, and remove one pole 18 on Hawley Street. The city council will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. Could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Make a motion to open up the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Counselor Labarge, and I think that was Counselor Perry. Yeah, okay. Uh, any discussion on opening the public hearing? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now open on this poll petition for Holly Street. Lisa is here to speak to this. And Laura, could you pull up the map on this? Okay. Oh, terrific. Enlarging it helps. Okay. So, Lisa, we spoke yesterday on the phone about this after your work hours. Thank you. And Lisa, you want to describe what's going on here?
Sure. Sorry about that. I think I just lost my light. So poll number, I gotta zoom in here myself. Poll 17. Poll 17 is actually just going to be relocated about 30 feet. I think that says south of its existing location. And what we're hoping to do is remove that old poll 17 and existing poll 18 and put just the new poll 17 to replace the both of them. We're trying to line it up to take a corner out of it so that there's not any guys needed. I did speak with both of the abutters and the abutters that where poll 17 is sitting in front of right now. They were fine with it. I had a little discussion with the owner where poll number 18 is right now. He was concerned about, his tenants backing up and it obstructing a view if the pole is moved to that towards the property line between the two properties. It's really quite open there except for the pole. And I don't know that there's really any good place. I spoke with Dave Valletta out on site. We talked about there are sidewalks that are going to be going in, and I think the fewer poles, the better. So we had some discussion about where that would fit within this and how it might alleviate any problem getting by pole 18, which is closer to Holyoke Street, the one that you see in the picture that's to be removed as well. And we just felt like that would be the best place for it because the sidewalks and some of the equipment that we have to have on the poles.
Okay. Counselors, any questions? And are there any opponents or proponents here? Looking through the screens here. I'm not seeing any. Oh, there's JP. Okay.
Okay.
JP, I'm asking you to, are you there, JP?
Yes, we are. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, JP. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We did have a conversation with Lisa Jasinski, and she was very helpful, and I think that worked out very nicely. The one point that I think I wanted to make was in front of the property that my wife and I own, there is a complete curb cut where the parking is.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a curb at the end of the property line through to at least the existing pole.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought was if you moved a few feet to the north, then you wouldn't be it would be easier for our tenants to actually pull in. And I don't think it would be any more difficult for the tenants in the building to the north because of the curb cut that exists already there. I'm sorry, the curb rather. We have the curb cut.
So
the request was that if it could be moved a few feet to the north.
So JP's request is to move it a few feet to the north. Is that possible? It's in the public right of way, correct, Lisa?
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the public right away. I think that all I would like to do is say that I'll meet with Dave Valletta out there, and if that's possible, we will consider that. I think that it was tight in the area. He wanted to have it in a way where it didn't obstruct the sidewalk, but also there's a gas line that we have to contend with. So we can do our best to try and move it a couple feet, but I would meet with Dave Valletta out there to make that decision. And usually, we have the ability without a petition to shift it. I think it's up to 3 feet. So that's something that we could discuss out there in the field.
JP, does it sound like your request is your request about moving it roughly 3 feet?
A couple feet. 2 feet would be, I think, beneficial for that turn. And I think it is all in the end going to depend on what we find underneath the ground. I understand there is a sewer lateral that is in this area, and that there are recommendations to have that lateral be identified and examined. So
Okay.
I think we'll all be dependent on that in the end.
So it sounds like the request that JP is making of moving it roughly 2 feet, depending on what's under the ground.
Correct.
Within the parameters that we're going to be approving tonight, correct, Lisa?
That's correct. That's correct. And like I said, I will meet back out there. It's been a while since I was out there with Dave Valletta from the DPW, but we can meet again. And if we can shift that a couple feet, we can do that. I don't think it's enough we want to keep a straight line. In order to be able to remove the poles before and after it, we'd have to keep it in a straight line, because then we're going to lose any space to support the structures if there's a corner on it. But I can do our best I will definitely go out there with Dave to see where it could go to. And I could call you, JP, if you'd like, before we do that.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I think it's a good plan. It consolidates 2 poles to 1 and gives you folks a straight line to have the
Right.
pole go. So
Right.
I think it accommodates everybody. Thank you.
Okay, great. You're welcome.
JP, before you go, I just want to make sure you're aware that there is a project here that also involves new sidewalks and a new curb cut for your property there.
I was never given any plans that actually showed where that sidewalk is. So I'd love to actually
Okay,
take
so
out.
I want to make
that
sure
layout.
so it's not on the agenda to talk about that, but
Sure.
it's on our agenda to talk about it now in the next few days.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, any more questions or discussion around this poll petition? All right, seeing no hands from counselors, seeing no hands out there in the, okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Foster, seconded by Counselor Moulton. Any discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry, Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
and Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. That item 22.152 it appears in our consent agenda, which we will be getting to in a few minutes. It is now, and I thank everybody for waiting. It is now time for public comment. So if you want to raise your hand to get in the queue, feel free. If you wish to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. The raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar under reactions. If you are calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. If you're having trouble raising your hand, you may use the chat feature to send a message to, it says me, but it's actually Counselor Foster. And to ensure equal access, and because of the Open meeting law, technical problems such as not being able to raise your hand are the only thing the chat function is used for, and the chat function will only be available during public comment. We cannot accept public comment over chat. Private chat or chat only visible on Zoom during a public meeting is antithetical to an open public process in violation of the council rules for public participation and violates the spirit and potentially the law of open meeting law. If you want to submit a written public comment, please email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov, and it will be sent to all councilors and will be part of the public record. I will unmute each raised hand in the order raised to make a comment. Before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the record to ensure everyone has equal opportunity to speak. The council limits comments to 2 minutes. You are in no way obligated to use the full 2 minutes, but if you do, after 2 minutes, I will ask you to finish your sentence. If you set your screen for gallery mode, you will see, do we have the blue sky timer? We have that tonight. You will see a timer on your screen. According to the council rules, councilors do not respond during public comment, as it is your time to speak. So while your comments should be directed to us, you will understand when we don't respond. Our rules also state that councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right and one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and do so with the recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone in the room. I love these words by GL. Also, according to open meeting law, if someone is disrupting a meeting, they may be removed. That's not GL. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda. I ask that all but the council turn off your video until called upon. Only the person recognized has the floor, and all comments are to be directed to the council. This meeting can also be watched on channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube and other platforms. Okay. Nancy is at the top of the queue, and do we got our timer ready to go? Nancy, you have the floor.
Nancy Smith, Chapel Street. While disappointed by the recommendation to rezone 31 Chapel to the treeless wasteland that is PV zoning, I was heartened by the commitment to not approve any further rezone of the block and by the concerns expressed regarding the dangers of PV zoning, including absolutely no guarantee that a marijuana processing plant or worse wouldn't be built there. It is time for a long overdue discussion and action on zoning ordinance changes intended to help provide more affordable housing, but in truth have only been abused for huge profit by developers leveling already affordable homes and tree cover to build luxury homes and high-end condos. One need only look to the devastating effects at 107 William Street and 39 Landy Ave to see repairing these zoning ordinances must become a priority now. The builder profit motivation inherent in those changes and at the very heart of PV zoning paints a big red profit bullseye on already affordable homes and neighborhoods, only exacerbating the housing crisis, not helping it. I get the city wants to generate more tax dollars, but let's not forget a serious population drop is imminent. Just as boomers retiring is causing a massive labor shortage, so does a massive glut of empty high-end mini condos loom on the horizon, crashing our bond rating. People in Florence are already packing to move from rentals they called home for a decade or more. The reasons may not all be the same, but gentrification is real in Northampton. I urge our new planning director and city council to step away from profit-focused plans and ordinances of the past toward a future where we work together to grow our city while protecting our middle and lower income homes, neighborhoods, people, and life-sustaining tree cover. Profit will still be there, but it can no longer be seen as the all-consuming answer to everything. It is simply not the answer we need. And PV zoning should be done away with. It is nothing but a barren, profit-laden wasteland with zero parking requirements. Thank you for all you do and for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, next up is Jackie Balance. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. Jackie Balance from Florence. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You have the floor,
Okay.
Jackie.
Well, I am happy to say that in my own very recent experiences, this council, both the veterans and the newbies, seem to be respecting community voices better than the last council did. Please don't burst my bubble. Now, I know y'all don't do this work for money. I've done the math. With all the hours you put in, you might make minimum wage. So you do it for the power and the glory, or even a desire for public service. I want to give a special shout out to Councilor Labarge, who is a city treasure for her many years of service, not only on behalf of her constituents, but for the whole city. I want to also mention that Councilor Nash might need a personal assistant to help him answer phone calls and emails from his constituents. I know someone on North Street who's been trying unsuccessfully to reach him for weeks already. Heads up, Councilor Nash. Now, about tonight's PV zoning change. Legislative Matters and Councilor Foster made a decision that might satisfy the landowner and the neighborhood who are affected for the short run, given that everyone agreed that this extension of PV zoning is a one-off. But the public still has reservations about that point. There is nothing standing in the way of future incursion of PV zoning except for Councilor Foster. Were she to retire or move to Hollywood for a new career, the new councilor replacing her would not be bound by her pledge. I'm worried because I've heard with my own ears, the planning board, oh my God, say that how much they would like to have PV adjacent to this new lot and to create a nice straight line on their map. Not that they wanted to help the neighborhood, but they like straight lines. That was scary to witness.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay. Next up is Adele Franks. You have the floor, Adele. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Adele Franks. I live in Florence, and I wanted to make a comment tonight about something that you're going to be voting on later, probably very much later, past my bedtime, which is the home rule petition to the legislature to allow Northampton to forbid fossil fuel combustion in new construction or substantial renovations. I thought you might find the background on this interesting. For those of you who don't know, I'll give you a quick summary. In 2019, the town of Brookline decided to take its commitment to reduce the use of fossil fuels very seriously and moved to forbid new gas cars. However, the Attorney General then ruled that they had no authority to do that because it was inconsistent with the state building code. So they filed a home rule petition to the legislature to allow them to do that, despite the fact that it was inconsistent with the state building code. And following that, numerous other municipalities have filed similar petitions to show how many municipalities really want to go beyond the state building code and really reduce their fossil fuel emissions substantially. So there are now 13 municipalities that have filed home rule petitions, including most recently Boston and Somerville. However, we would be the first in Western Massachusetts to adopt such a home rule petition. And so I am hoping that when you later on in your agenda consider order 22.173, that you will pass it unanimously tonight and show that Northampton takes our commitment to emissions reduction very seriously and are poised to act accordingly. Thank you.
Good job finishing your. Thank you, Adele. All right. Next up is Lisa Sarkowski.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm a proud native of Northampton and the great-granddaughter of two Polish immigrants who helped to build St. John Cantius Church. And in the lead up to World War I, About a fifth of the Polish population immigrated to the US to escape life-threatening poverty and repression. And my grandfather was one of them, arriving in Northampton in 1890. According to family lore, he slept under an apple tree, eating only its fruit until he found work at the pulp mill on Route 5, where the foreman changed his name from Sharkovsky to Sharek. Excuse me. After 2 years, my grandmother joined him in the house that he built behind the mill on Island Road. Together, they raised 8 children in that house, which still stands and remains in our family. Soon, they joined with other Polish immigrants in the community to bring St. John Cantius into existence by donating precious funding and their own labor to build it. Every brick of St. John Cantius was placed by the hands of immigrants who had made a treacherous journey to gamble on a new life in a new country. And life here was not problem-free. Like other immigrant groups, Poles endured unsafe working conditions, ridicule, and discrimination. But this did not define them. What defined them was their gratitude. Next time you look at St. John Cantius, I hope you'll see it as a stunning manifestation of all the gratitude felt by Frank and Nellie and all the others who were given a chance to build a good life here in the city of Northampton. I will always be proud of my hometown for its welcoming of newcomers, whether in 1890 or today. Please, let's not erase the legacy of Polish immigrants in Northampton. Let us preserve St. John Cantius to honor them and all the others who have crossed country or state borders to call our beautiful city home. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. All right. People are doing a good job finishing their last sentence tonight. I appreciate that. All right, Fred. Fred Zimnock. Fred, are you there?
Let me unmute. Thank you, Jim. My name is Fred Zimnock. I live on Pomeroy Terrace in the Historic District. By this time, I think all can agree that St. John Cantius Church is a local landmark, both architecturally and historically significant to the city and the Polish American community. It's also an important part of our streetscape. The Friends of St. John Cantius also determined that the building is structurally sound. Unfortunately for old buildings, which are architecturally special, such as churches, they are difficult to repurpose. The fact is, it is difficult, is supported by semi-successful and failed projects in Northampton, such as the Sewer Baptist Church. The goal is to preserve the historic appearance of the building while being confident that with this building plan or a building plan, it will operate in a financially successful manner for many years. A successful result can be achieved with the ODG O'Connell plan, which requires that repairs to the exterior of the church be overseen by a historic architect along with the city and our historic commission, which holds a historic preservation restriction in perpetuity on the church. ODG has been in the business for over a century and has made numerous projects in Northampton, such as Smith College Museum, Smith College Student Center, Sargent House, and manages numerous low-cost housings, including Michael House on State Street for over 40 years. Our Community Preservation Committee has vigorously examined all aspects of this project. Chairman Brian Adams and all the committee members are strong supporters of this project. This project is a win for the city. After all discussion, I can't imagine that any substantial objection to this Community Preservation Committee grant can be made. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, next up is Barbara Blumenthal.
Yes, Barbara Blumenthal. I live on Chapel Street in Northampton, and I'm talking about the the zoning change you're going to consider much later in your meeting today at 31 Chapel Street. And I know that you got a positive recommendation from both the planning board and the legislative committee, I believe it's called. But I want you to know that, and I don't think I'm alone, that some of us in the neighborhood still want to go on record as not wanting this change to that parcel of land where Metrics, or the former Metrics was. The planned village consisted of most of the, if not all of the former state hospital campus. And it seemed appropriate to have a planned village zoning there because it was kind of starting with a clean slate once all the buildings were demolished. But it did not include 2 houses on Laurel Street and this triangle of land, which includes 31 Chapel Street, because they were not part of the original state hospital. And I'm still quite unhappy that this is the 31 Chapel will be changed to PV, in spite of any assurances anybody's giving me now, which of course they're not binding, that PV will not continue to creep into a long-standing existing neighborhood. So thanks very much for at least listening to our voices.
Thank you, Barbara. Next up is John Dunn. John, you have, well, let me make sure. Asking you to unmute. I think you might have to unmute on your end, John. There you go. John, you there?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here. You hear me?
have the floor, John.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm John Dunn, and I live on State Street. And as the first director of Valley CDC, a developer and a lender for affordable housing for over 30 years, I've seen many, many opportunities to restore or preserve historic buildings. And I've participated in a few in Northampton, the Sargent House at 82 Bridge Street, recently rehabilitated by Valley CDC, and 2234 New South Street behind the Academy of Music. Now, both buildings barely escaped the wrecking ball, but both are still here for us, at least for another few decades. The fact that they were eventually used for affordable housing was a double win, affordable housing and historic preservation, but that is not always possible. It seems like the exterior of St. John Cantius Church can be preserved, but plans for the reuse include market rate housing. A lot of people don't like that. Does this mean we should allow the building to be torn down? No. Does this mean we shouldn't support the CPA committee's decision to allocate $500,000 to its preservation? No. Preservation of historic Northampton buildings is a significant value in itself, and to pay to preserve the beautiful exterior of this building, a monument to Polish immigrant culture here, is a very good deal for the citizens of Northampton. It's irrelevant who is the recipient of the funds. All of us are the real recipients of the value of preservation of this building, every single one of us in the city. It's a well-established fact that private for-profit investment is often needed to create public good. Most affordable housing, for example, is done through tax credits which benefit both banks and other investors. In case people didn't know that, it's just simply the way we do things in this country. So we need to keep the physical landscape of Northampton interesting, varied, and multi-textured, and I hope you support the CPC's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up that's Joanne Matkowitz. Let me see if we can get you unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
You are unmuted. You have the floor, Joanne.
All right, thank you. And I have to say that I would like to reiterate what John Dunn just said. And I just believe that there's been lots and lots of time and effort involved in this. And O'Connell has put lots of time and effort into trying to salvage the building. And they didn't have to do any of this. They really didn't have to do any of it. And I just didn't know I was going to, okay. Anyway, my husband is like saying, okay, Joanne, keep going. You know, there's, you know, O'Connell has quite a burden to maintain this. The outside historical structure as it stands, and that they are willing to follow the guidelines to, you know, that the Massachusetts Historical Commission has set forth to save it in perpetuity. And that's, you know, no development company has to do that. And they have gone above and beyond, as far as I'm concerned, to try to do that. And both the Northampton Historical Commission and the Community Preservation Committee, you know, spent lots and lots of thoughtfully and intensely thoughtful time. And unanimously, I would just like to encourage, without, you know, further ado, encourage everyone to please listen to the Zoom meetings that both of those commissions have thoughtfully deliberated on, and to read Bill Newman's column. It says it all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanne. All right, next up is Brian. Brian, can you unmute?
I can, thank you. My
And
name is
also,
Brian.
so go ahead, name and address, and what city or town, thanks.
My name is Brian Adams. I live on 9 Haywood Road in Florence, and I am the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. I would like to reiterate.
You got muted, Brian. Hang on.
Yeah.
Here we go, sorry. That was
Started
my
over.
fault.
Yeah.
So again, I'm chair of the Community Preservation Committee. I'd like to reiterate that after a lot of deliberation, both this spring and the summer, and perhaps more public comments than we have ever received on any proposal, we made the unanimous recommendation to ask the City Council for a full appropriation of $500,000 for the St. John Cantius proposal. We're aware of all of the discomfort that exists about private development of this, but we feel that that ship has sailed, essentially, that we're not letting the perfect get in the way of the good. This is a historic preservation project. It is not an affordable housing project. The good news is we have 5 projects before us this fall, which are all affordable housing. Even if we fully funded the St. John Cantius proposal, we could fully fund all of the projects before us that are presented to us for the fall round, leaving us with a few $100,000 for the spring round as well. The other thing I would like to reiterate is that in no way does this set precedent. A number of people have said, well, if we fund one private developer, the president has said, and we will have to fund all private development. That's simply not true. We take every proposal on a case-by-case basis and do our due deliberation on each of those. So again, I would urge the council to look at the recommendation of the CPC after lots of time. I appreciate all of the work that all of you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Next up is Chris Hellman.
Good evening. I'm Chris Hellman. I reside at 625 West Hampton Road in Florence, and I'm also a member of the Community Preservation Commission. It's just a coincidence that my chair preceded me, but I want to associate myself with his remarks. I think it's important to reiterate a couple of things that Brian said. This was not a decision that we took lightly. I think it was one that the majority of the committee struggled over because it is a complicated issue. And yet we were able to come together and approve the recommendation unanimously. So although it was a difficult decision, I think we were confident that we made the right one. For me, one of my concerns was this question, and I know I'm not alone in this, about whether this is an appropriate use of taxpayer funds. And the law is clear. We have the opportunity to do this should we choose to do so. So the question then becomes, is it something that we feel is appropriate? I think the historical significance of the structure has been more than eloquently articulated by previous speakers. So I think, and I found that a very compelling argument. And I think this idea of this being a precedent about the allocation of tax dollars is also correct. This is not a precedent other than to say that we are willing as a community to stand behind projects that we think maintain the historical and cultural fiber of our neighborhoods. And myself and my colleagues on the committee felt that this program met those parameters. So I ask you to consider adopting our recommendations. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is Deborah Henson. Let's see, can we get you unmuted here? Let's see. Don't start talking yet. All right. All right, you're unmuted. There you go, Deb. You have the floor.
All right, thank you. First of all, I know this has been a real struggle for all of you, and I appreciate the diligence with which you are struggling with this tough issue. And I myself have struggled with it. I want to address two things that came up in the Finance Committee meeting after the point at which I could no longer speak. And one is the issue of public access not being available interior, and the second is about the possibility or not of CBAC actually granting a demo permit. So the first thing is, I think we'd all love to have access to this beautiful church. The barrel ceiling is gorgeous. We would love to be able to do that. I think we all agree, like Brian said, this is not the perfect solution, but it is better than the alternative. And that's why I wrapped my head around it fairly quickly, saying, I don't trust that they will not, this moves me to my second point, and I'm watching the timer. I don't trust, having been through these CBAC meetings, I think 3 or 4 of them, that they would not grant the demo permit. And it's because it hinges on financially feasible. That it doesn't say financially feasible, it says structurally or functionally obsolete. But what that is interpreted by staff and by the committee members, and they've talked about this, is that if this project isn't possible financially, then it's just not. And there is not a historic component to, oh, we have to preserve it because it's historic. No, there's not. It meets the criteria that I've enunciated before: viable use, structural and functional obsolescence. And I just think this is not a tenable option to have this church building removed. I have 7 seconds, 6. So I hope that you vote to keep this building standing. I think it's a pretty good deal for $1 million.
Thank you, Deb. All right, next up is Claudia Lefko. Welcome, Claudia.
Hi, Claudia Lefko, 40 Valley Street. What an endurance test this is. I'm not going to repeat my own arguments about this, but I would like to make a comment on the process. You know, some years ago, an anonymous donor, we don't know who gave $50,000 to this committee, to a committee to save St. John Cantius Church. Part of the multi-year campaign was a petition which was signed by 1,300 people. This petition has been cited time and time again in every meeting I've been to on Zoom as proof of how many people want to save the church. But there was never this petition was circulated before the CPA question entered the conversation. So there was no effort made to take a bead on the city feeling about this church after it was tied up with the CPA funds. So this, for me, the big issue has to do with the private developer. This money is a particularly precious pot of money. It's money that taxpayers in Northampton voted our own selves to pay extra. This is not something that government insists on. So the fact that this money is going to be given to a private developer for profit seems like a very dangerous precedent. And one can say it's not going to be a precedent, but we know, like zoning, it creeps along and one thing leads to another. And I just think it's terrible. It's a terrible thing if you vote to do it. So I'm once again urging you to vote against the money. The church, the issue of the church, that is O'Connell's problem. They could solve it. They're a business. They have capacity. So that's my comment. Please vote against this. Thank you. And then wait, and then so Mac, okay, very good. So I'm done. We're done. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Claudia. Okay, next up is Garrett Stover. Garrett, are you there? Did I mute you accidentally? Try it now.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Thanks very much. I'm Garrett Stover. I live at 55 Fairview Avenue. As I think I mentioned at a previous meeting, I'm sitting in an historic building where I have my office. And I'm really proud that the city saved Old School. Again, they didn't have to. And that went to a private developer. The point I want to make is the angst about, giving money to a profit-making enterprise is it's kind of emblematic. I think if you look at the numbers, if you've been reading the newspaper about all the public building projects that are now facing 10, 20, 30, 40% hikes in their construction costs, O'Connell is faced with the same thing. But I think it's good evidence of their good faith that they have not come back to the city and asked for more money. The project has become less and less financially rewarding for them. I think when they made the request, originally it was a break even for them. So please honor Polish Heritage Month. There was a very moving comment earlier on. This is, as Councilor Nash has pointed out, it's an investment for perpetuity. Please approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. Next up is Mark Moggio. Mark, you have the floor.
Hi there. I just want to reiterate everybody else's comments about, I was torn about the money going to a private developer, but in the big picture, I don't think this is a slippery slope. We can obviously see how much time is going into how much effort's going into all these meetings to go over it with the finance committee and all these different committees. So if something else comes up like this, like a private thing that wants money, it's obviously going to go through a process like we're doing this now. It's going to go through its process. So I don't think it's a slippery slope. And I am now 100% in favor of giving the CPA money to this project. And keep in mind that O'Connell is going to be maintaining this as apartments, not high-end apartments. They aren't affordable apartments as it's described, but they're middle of the road apartments. And they will be paying taxes on this building. So they will be giving back to the city in the long term. And frankly, with the cost of things nowadays, $500,000, I hate to say it's not a lot of money, but you look at how much money they're going to end up spending on this building, and it's a very small percentage of that amount, that total amount of money. So I just want to give a positive to the CPA funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next up is JP. JP joined us again. JP, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll be there in a second, just trying to get the video going here. I just wanted to lend my voice to those who believe that Northampton and its skyline, its historic culture is worth the funds. And these funds purchase, I believe, come with an historic preservation restriction. So that's really what you're buying, is the future of Northampton. My family has lived in the neighborhood, all the members for the last 100 years. I think that this project receives broad public support, and that I, in fact, had very strongly supported the CPA measures when they were first brought before the public. And I think it's because the public recognizes this is for all the uses for the CPA, and the skyline and architectural integrity of Northampton now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now, is worth preserving.
Thank you, Jay. Next up is Elaine Gendu. You have the floor, Elaine.
Hi, my name is Elaine Gendu, and I live in Northampton. And I support CPA funding because I just think it's keeping Northampton with its historic features, its architectural. It's just, I just can't imagine taking this grand building down. Also, the fact that the CPC and the Historic Commission unanimously voted to preserve it after all of their hard work, long time of deliberating, and I'm very impressed with them. I just don't understand why people don't want to take care of our city by using the CPA money, which is Community Preservation Act, and we want to preserve our history. That's all I have to really say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elaine. All right. I am not seeing any more hands for public comment. I'll give it a second here. Okay. Oh, there. I see. Lisa, I think you already shared before, correct? I'm asking you to unmute.
Yes, hi, I never gave you my address. I'm here on Fairview Avenue in Northampton. Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Lisa. And next up is Deborah.
Hi,
my name's Deborah.
Hi, my name's Deborah Berkovitz. I live at 41 Warner Street in Bay State Village. People have put so much time into this, and I want to say that I have such deep conflict in myself. There isn't a historic privy that I wouldn't want to save. So the fact that I actually don't support this funding for me is feels really sad, and it doesn't mean that I don't absolutely want to see this building preserved. But I have concerns that many people have raised about private development, but I feel like there's some due diligence that I'll just say as a taxpayer, have not seen, which is we hear that they can't afford the $500,000 and need the public funds. I have not seen the books for the project, and I want to say that it's not just the church. The church is part of a larger project with all the townhouses. It's hard for me to picture that they don't have $500,000 in their profit margin. I think there's a lack of transparency. And I can also say that while the historical report that was done on the building was fantastic, I was in the Historic Commission meeting, and the person representing O'Connell was very squirrely about, well, yes, but if it costs too much, maybe we won't be able to do this or that. I did not get the assurances that I wanted to hear before this funding was approved, that the things that we would want to see in place in terms of protections were going to be there. And I think there's a lot that needs to happen beforehand. We also have Massachusetts tax credits that they're choosing not to avail themselves of. So I think there's just a I think that if they want the public money, they have to open up their books to the public about the entire project and why they need $500,000 of public taxpayer funds for this private for-profit venture. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. All right. Look at that. Elijah. Let's see.
Yes.
Elijah, you are
hello.
unmuted and you have the floor.
Hi, this is the public comment period, correct?
It is, and you have
Okay.
2 minutes. We can reset, we just reset the timer.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, City Councilor Nash, and councilors. My name is Elijah Bacall. I live in Northampton. I'm a senior at Northampton High School, and I'm the co-chair of the Northampton Youth Commission, which for those who don't know is the official public body in Northampton, Mass, tasked with representing the interests of young people in city government. We actually have a meeting going on right now. I'm sitting in City Hall, right outside the hearing room at City Hall. Some of you might recognize, I had to step out. That's why I wasn't able to attend for the whole of the agenda here tonight. But I wanted to join here to restate the Youth Commission's support for the plastic reduction and sustainability ordinance, which is being considered by the council tonight. So the Youth Commission, along with Councilor Maori and former City Councilor Dwight, is a co-sponsor of this legislation. We were heavily involved in its drafting, and yeah, we're a signed-on co-sponsor in its passage in early 2021. There were 2 delays, implementation delays that have gone through since that point, which we completely understand the reason for and expressed as much in a statement that we voted on, in making it clear that we were not opposed to this delay due to the uncertainty brought on for local small businesses by COVID, inflation, a volatile labor market, and other challenges. But I'm speaking today to indicate that the Youth Commission supports the implementation of this legislation now. We believe it's the right time to do this based on the research we did when we were originally drafting the ordinance about the climate impact that this would have. And our city has been a leader in the fight against climate change, and we really want to continue that track record. Yeah, so I see I'm running low on my time, but I'll just say that, I support the implementation of this now on October 31st, and we look forward to continuing the dialogue with the business community to craft policies that are good for them, as well as furthering our environmental goals here in Northampton.
Thank you, Elijah. And thank you to the Youth Commission. Okay. Going once, going twice. Any more hands for public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we will now move on our agenda. Let's see. Okay, announcements from counselors. So I actually have an announcement that I'm going to take some things out of order, and I just want to put it out there for counselors to and for city staff to know that that my plan is to we're going to do announcements, then we're going to do an ordinance related to something on the consent agenda, and then we are going to deal with the 2 items that we've received some public comment about tonight. One is the CPA money, and the other has to do with the zoning. And then we can do the business that the public is interested in. And then in my opinion, most of the rest of the items are all business for us to work on. So that's my plan. Are there any other announcements? And the mayor is part of this. the announcements. I see Counselor Maori raising her hand and then Counselor Perry.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to say that I got my bivalent booster last week at the Elks Club, and boy, you know, every time I go there, it's just I actually have a public health background, and I've never seen a better run clinic. It's just amazing. I brought my 2 kids, and they're great with kids, and I just think we should all be taking advantage of it. It's really in and out, and they're very accommodating. You can make an appointment on northamptonma.gov. Their hours are Mondays 2 to 6 and Thursdays between 10 and 4. So the bivalent boosters there for anyone 12 and up, and the regular boosters are there for anybody at any age. You have to make an appointment, but you know, it's even worth stopping in if you're having trouble with that. You can call, but also stop in, and if they can, they'll accommodate you. And I can't stress enough what a great operation they're doing. And thank you to our volunteers there, and thank you to the Health and Human Service Department.
Thank you, Counselor Maori. Counselor Perry.
Yes, I just wanted to let folks know that this is going to be the last weekend for Summer on Strong. Summer on Strong has been an excellent addition to our city. In my opinion, is one of the brightest beacons that's come out of the pandemic. I want to salute to Deb from Eastside, to the DNA, Amy, the Chamber, Northampton Arts Council, and the city of Northampton for this year being a part of it. There's going to be music on Sunday. It's Mandy Pacious and Dan Thomas. So, I implore everyone to get out there and enjoy a little bit of that Summer on Strong before it goes away till next year.
Okay. And it will be back next year, right, Mayor?
We certainly hope so.
Okay. All right. Any other announcements? Councilor Labarge.
There, I got it. I just want to announce starting on Saturday, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th is the Northampton's Paradise Art Festival down at the 3 County Fair. I usually go to that every year. It's fantastic down there. So if anybody is available, go down. It is worth it.
Thank you, Counselor. All right. Any other announcements? I see the mayor has an announcement.
Yeah, if counselors are done, I do have a couple announcements. Good evening, counselors. I want to announce, so October 19th is the 20th Nef Spelling Bee. This is a fabulous event. Doors open at 5 p.m. Spelling starts at 6 p.m. There's food available for purchase at the Le Bistro, provided by Cooper's Corners, and ice cream from Harold's and baked goods. NEF is looking for teams. Now, some counselors can attest to the fact that that it is a very fun time, and that all the money raised by this event helps support NEF, fulfill its mission to support and strengthen our public schools here in Northampton. It is a great time. I encourage folks to start teams. I know that they really need some more teams. They're also looking for more sponsors, but it's a really fun event. It's all in good fun. I'm not sure any team I've been a part of has ever made it out of the first round, but that doesn't matter. It is it's all meant to support our schools and have a good time. So I encourage everyone to get involved, go to NEF, sign up for a team, and please join us on October 19th for a fabulous evening. My other announcement is that I've heard that there's interest in discussing the stormwater utility fee, particularly in the Finance Committee. And I know Councilor Labarge has a real interest in this, so I just want to give a quick update on this. This is something that we've been working on, and at my request, Director Lascalia engaged the engineering firm Ty and Bond to undertake a review of our utility fee structure. Ty and Bond has done a lot of work with Massachusetts municipalities around stormwater, and they are very well suited to understand our regulatory requirements for stormwater and the funding that's necessary to support compliance for those requirements. So
They will be able to comment on our existing rate structure as it compares to other communities, and then make recommendations around supporting and maintaining an equitable fee structure that, that again, will support compliance for us. So we are waiting for that review. When it's complete and we've reviewed and analyzed it, we will absolutely discuss it with the council. So I just wanted to give that update because I know that there's been conversation around that, and I want to keep you all in the loop. So those are my 2 announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Perry's got another announcement.
Yes, I almost forgot that the deadline for requesting or putting in proposals for ARPA funding is coming up October 14th. This is open to individuals, nonprofits, and groups. I've had the pleasure of hearing some proposals that people are putting forth, and I'm really excited. So, spread the word, make sure that you get it in there. 2 applications, one for things under $10,000 and one for things over $10,000. So, get out there and get this money.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. All right. I have 2 announcements. If there's anybody else have anything? Okay. First of all, I took a tour of the Children's Advocacy Center today, and it was impressive. It was comfy, and it was sobering. And it's an experience that that they have offered to counselors. They'll provide a tour, and they're happy to speak with any of us. And also anybody in the community, if you're interested in having a tour of their facility, that you can just Google them, Children's Advocacy Center of Hampshire County. Just to be clear, what they do, they provide a comprehensive, culturally competent, multidisciplinary response to allegations of child abuse. So they do important work, and they'd like our support and take advantage of that. The other thing is I just like to thank council while I was away for not reaching out to me, and I had a great vacation, and I especially want to extend a thank you to Vice President Foster for just picking up everything. I came back. We voted on a home rule petition. It's on the agenda. I had no idea. There was lots of stuff that happened without me. And you know what? That's the way it's supposed to work. Yep. And I also heard there was a meeting where, there was a little trouble with communication. And I think Councilor Maori, we were trying to figure out, with the council meeting, we're figuring out the order in terms of if Councilor Foster couldn't run the meeting, who could do it? So I appreciate all of the collaboration. It doesn't surprise me. So thank you. All right, any other announcements? Okay, seeing no other hands. Okay, the next thing I want to take up is it's down in ordinance, and it's 22.171, an ordinance establishing procedures for filling vacancies in elected positions on the Community Preservation Committee. I want to address this first because there's an item in our agenda that has to do with taking this action. So I'm pulling it up here. Oh, good. Computer's still working. 22.171, an ordinance establishing procedures for filling vacancies in elected positions on the Community Preservation Committee, whereas a home rule charter for the city of Northampton provides that the city council shall fill a vacancy on the Community Preservation Committee pursuant to the process and procedure set forth by the ordinance. Now, therefore, ordered that the Code of Ordinance of the City of Northampton shall be amended by amending Section 22.2, Section F as follows. F, should there be a vacancy or resignation in any of the community preservation positions, the commissions, boards, authorities have appointed I'm going to redo that. Committee positions, the commissions, boards, and authorities who have appointment authority under this article shall appoint a new representative within 45 days of the first date of vacancy or resignation. Otherwise, said vacancy may be filled by the city council. Should there be a vacancy in one of the two elected positions, which is what we're dealing with tonight, such vacancy shall be filled as follows until the next regular city election. The vacant position shall be advertised in a manner that the president of city council deems likely to attract a diverse pool of qualified candidates. The vacancy shall appear on the agenda for city council meeting within 30 days of the vacancy. The city council may vote on such vacancy, or it may refer the matter to a council committee for recommendation as to filling the vacancy. The vacancy shall be a person eligible to vote in the city of Northampton no later than 60 days of the vacancy. So that is, and I think we want to do this in 2 readings, right, Laura? Because
This is a second reading.
this is a second reading?
Your
Thank
first.
Yes,
This is a first.
No, it's your first. This is a second reading.
right.
This is the second reading. Oh, okay. So it's already been introduced, and now it's up for discussion and approval. Okay, counselors. And I will entertain a motion to approve as well.
Move to approve.
Okay, Counselor Labarge has made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Moulton. Okay. Any discussion on this? Okay. Hearing none.
Oh, I have a hand up, Councilor Nash.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, it must be very small. Just a very brief discussion. I just wanted to thank Laura and Attorney Seawald. They put an awful lot of work into understanding the intricacies of how to fill this vacancy and put together an ordinance that would direct us in filling it, but that wasn't that was a little bit open-ended to allow for space. There's the City Council Select Committee on
Studying
oh, I'm
barriers.
drawing a blank. City Council Select. Thank you. Studying barriers to service. And you know that we intentionally wrote an ordinance that is slightly open-ended so that in the future we can incorporate any recommendations that may come out of that committee. But Laura and Attorney Seawald put an awful lot of work into this, and I appreciate that.
Okay, any more discussion? I will say this is one of the things that I'm very thankful for that Councillor Foster worked on. All right. Seeing no more discussion, Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Councillor Elkins.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Gore.
Yes.
And Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, that ordinance has passed in second reading, and we are now on to back to the consent agenda. I'm going to quickly read through the items that are on here. We have the minutes of September 15th, 2022. We have a item 22.152, a poll petition having to do with Hawley Street, which you heard us discuss before in the public hearing. 22.157, the other poll petition for Willow Street that we had the hearing on. Appointments to various committees. These are all positive recommendations. To the Arts Council, we have Kay Carroll. To the Conservation Commission, we have David Reckow. Board of Registrars, we have Mary Lou Stewart. We also have item 22.170, an order authorizing expenditures from accessible parking fines. We have 22.172 in order to reprogram funds to purchase scanner printer. Item 22.174, appointment of Jonah Zuckerman to fill vacancy in elected position on Community Preservation Committee. That's related to the ordinance we just did. There is item 22.188, appointments to various committees for referral to city services. We have John Omasta for the Agricultural Commission and Alonia, I'm sorry, I'm screwing this up, Skripka to the Arts Council. And that is the consent agenda. Are there any requests for removals from the consent agenda? Councillor Foster.
I would like to request the removal of the appointment of Jonah Zuckerman to fill the vacancy in the elected position on the Community Preservation Committee.
Okay, so that item has been removed. Any other requests for removals? Okay, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councillor Labarge, seconded by Councillor Jarrett. There's no discussion on the consent agenda. And Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, the consent agenda has been passed. We have an item that was removed. Let me find it. It's 22.174, appointment of Jonah Zuckerman to fill vacancy in elected position on Community Preservation Committee. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, I removed the item just for a quick introduction. Members of the city services heard this, but I just wanted to take a moment. Jonah Zuckerman couldn't be at the meeting tonight, but he was one of, we ended up with 3 applicants for the Community Preservation Committee. Jonah has a very broad background of being trained as an architect. He's very invested in open space, affordable housing, outdoor recreation, kind of many facets of what the CPC will be looking at. He's recently returned to school. He's studying social work. And, he's one question he's really interested in is, we had a good conversation, but he's really interested in the question of what is a public good and what isn't. And, he was really interested in kind of digging into the nuance of how public money is spent and how we consider applications. So I appreciate him applying. He had served on the Arts Council before, has been interested in serving since, and his phrase was that he's been looking for a while and how we could make a meaningful contribution to the city of Northampton by serving. That's, I appreciate his applying and his interest, and I think he'll be a wonderful addition to the committee.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Jarrett.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Foster. So I was curious actually about 2 things. One, I guess, would be for the council president, as if, although we just passed that ordinance, so maybe that wasn't the way we did things until now, but what was the process for seeking out applications? How did we cast a wide net to get applicants? And then the second was, what I was curious what the process was for determining which of the 3 was that in, I missed the city services meeting. So was that in the city services meeting, or was that done by one of the members?
So I think I'll answer the first question. So in terms of the outreach, we posted it on the city website, that counselors shared the information with constituents, and that that's the way we put the word out. Yeah, and then we did get 3 candidates. All 3 were pretty good. I think that Councillor Foster could speak to them. I'm a personal friend of one of the candidates who considered the position, but was basically had withdrawn, but was very interested. I'm sure that former Councillor Dennis Bidwell would have served well in this position. And but I think that Jonah, in terms of finding somebody new and ready to step up, I think is the right direction to go in. So anyway, Councillor Foster.
Good, and I can answer about the process. We had a few different scenarios in mind, Councillor Jarrett, based on how many applications we received. As Councillor Nash mentioned, one of the applicants, Dennis Bidwell, did withdraw his application, and it was based on the meeting schedule. So that left us with 2 applicants. And so I ended up interviewing them both and presenting a recommendation to City Services. One of our considerations had been to invite candidates into City Services for the committee to interview. We'd had kind of a packed agenda at the most recent meeting, as well as can be a little awkward to do that in public. So I had a chance to have a good phone call with each of them.
Thank you for that explanation.
Any more discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve this appointment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Labarge, seconded by Councillor Perry. Any further discussion? Okay, Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Councillor Elkins.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Gore.
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
And Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Okay, and a big thank you to Mr. Zuckerman for stepping up to fill this important role. Okay, next up on the agenda. Okay, I was taking things out of order. Where's my list? Okay, next up is 22.167. And it's the order related to CPA funds. Let's see, pull it up here. In order to appropriate $500,000 in CPA funds to 10 Holly Street Rehabilitation Project. I am not going to read all of this. I think we know well what we're talking about here. So this is here this evening. It had a neutral recommendation from Community Resources. Earlier this evening, it got a neutral recommendation from the Finance Committee. It has been sent to us with a unanimous support of the CPC along with the Historic Preservation Committee. And so it's on the floor for discussion, councilors. And by the way, I have a whole speech if you want to hear it, but but I am the chair, or the pres, so here you go. I guess, am I hearing speech? Okay.
There are people.
Councillor Foster has her hand up.
Oh, Councillor Foster. And then Councillor Jarrett.
Okay. Very unusual order for me to put my hand up first. But I'll kick things off. I've spent weeks, as I know everybody else has, really thinking about this and really parsing through the arguments and the I wish scenarios and the positives and the negatives. And for a very, very long time, I would say every couple hours as I would think about it, I would come up with a sort of a different direction that I plan to go with my vote tonight. It's been agonizing, might be too hyperbolic, but it's been a lot to think about. You know, I really hear the trust that the public puts in the city to spend their money well, a 3% surcharge on property taxes, you know, and to use that for its intended purpose. At the same time, the Historic Commission and the Community Preservation Commission have looked, you know, spent hours and hours very carefully and thoroughly looking into this proposal and this project. And I do feel that it's important to respect, or maybe not respect their work, but to take their recommendation under strong consideration. That feels important as they've been really in the weeds on this for a long time. I have so many wishes for this property. I wish that the city's offer to purchase it to be a resilience hub had been accepted. It's really frustrating to me that it wasn't. It's disappointing, and I think that would have been a fantastic use for this property. And yet we can't make decisions based on I wishes. One thing that when I learned, I spoke with Chair Adams about this a handful of times. And something that helped me a little bit wrap my brain around this too was that the historic preservation restriction is actually going to reduce the church's property value, or O'Connell's property value here, by about $680,000, the assessed value of the property, because the historic restriction, you know, all of a sudden means that they can't do whatever they want. You know, another thing is we're looking now at 10 market rate apartments rather than 6 condos. So there is more housing. And I understand, I mean, I hear the significance of the church to the Polish community, you know, the significance of that, you know, to residents of our city. And so I don't intend to vote yes with grand enthusiasm, but I do intend, that's the direction that I do intend to vote tonight. And that's why.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, Councillor Jarrett.
Thank you, Councillor Foster, for going first. I want to echo, you know, the sentiments that you expressed. It's a very difficult decision here. So, you know, I value historic preservation. I have been happy to support the past recipients, and these recipients have, by far, with some exceptions, been doing projects where it isn't just the building, the view from the street that is preserved, but it allows for public access or advances an additional public purpose, in addition to historic preservation, such as supporting a nonprofit charity or affordable housing. This is an important and a worthy project. I value the opinion of the CPC and the Historical Commission. I watched the CPC's deliberations. I've always voted for the CPC's recommendations, so I don't take questioning this lightly. It's the dollar amount matters. It comes down to a question of priorities for me. That's priorities within the minimum of the 10% that we are required to spend on historic preservation, and the priorities beyond that. I would say this is a zero-sum game, in that every dollar we spend on one project, we cannot spend on another, whether that's in this round, the next round, or a future year if the budgeted reserves carry over. So as a city councilor, in the current situation in Northampton, affordable housing is my top priority for CPA funds. It's a priority that I ran on twice. 45% of the households in Northampton rent, and in 2019, 52% of those were housing cost burdened. They were spending more than 30% of their income on housing. 15% of my ward lives in public or subsidized housing, and many who live there want to buy but can't afford to stay in Northampton. And so we desperately need more affordable housing. And there is a need for more market rate housing in the range that is proposed with this project, but market rate housing can be built by the market. Affordable housing can't. Most of us on the committees and the council are not in the situations of people, most of us are homeowners who are in a situation that we can afford, not all. So I feel I must uplift the voices of those who are struggling with housing. I know that we have historically funded all the affordable housing projects that we've received, as far as I'm aware, though not always fully. I think a task for us as a community is to seek out more applications in this area. I know that we can fund all of the current applications in the queue along with this application. I know Brian Adams, the chair of the CPC, at a previous meeting said that would leave about 400,000 or a few $100,000 left over. There are 2 rounds, but this is just the autumn round. So what projects would come forward in spring, whether that's historic preservation with an additional public benefit or one of the other categories, we don't know yet. So to conclude, I don't think that this provides a sufficient public benefit for the amount of CPA dollars contributed. I would consider a lower grant amount, or if an additional benefit such as affordability or public use was added. I understand the position of the applicant and realize this means some additional funding from another source would be required, which may not be available, reconsidering another option for the church, such as the offer the city made to purchase, or demolition, which makes this a very difficult decision. But I feel we can't be responsible for the neglect of previous owners or the business decisions of the current owners. If we vote no, it is the current owner's decision, assuming the CB, the Central Business Architecture Commission, would allow them to demolish. And the current owners could choose to preserve the structure. Such a large company would have the reserves to absorb that. And I think the responsibility of demolition would lie squarely with them. So weighing all of these factors, I'm not ready to support the project now as it is now. But it's a very painful decision.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Maori.
Yes, I think I agree with that. I was saying earlier in finances, I think this is the toughest decision for me in council. And I was saying it's because I actually, to me, it's like reasonable. Both conclusions to me, whether to support it or not, seem reasonable. And I respect the opinions on both sides of that. I am very grateful to the dedicated group of residents who have been working tirelessly to save the church. We should all, feel gratitude and that these kinds of organizing community, groups are out there. And I also have an enormous respect for our council president, and I see his passion for, and this isn't his ward, and I feel his passion for this, and so that definitely impacts me. And I also want to say that, I think this Community Preservation Committee has done a thorough job and has been very reverent in its unpacking of this. So I think they landed on a reasonable decision. I don't have that concern so much about precedent, because I've seen how the CPC operates, and they truly do look at things case by case. And I think not voting for this because I was worried about a precedent doesn't kind of prevent the problem in future years either. So that's not my particular concern. I do, like others have said, in 100 years when most of us are gone, and I want this, I want this church to be standing. I want it to be there. I very much want its beauty, its history, its local significance to be standing. And I agree with Councilor Moulton that architecture is art, and in that sense, public art. So kind of does feel like it's on council whether this church risks being destroyed. And but I agree with Councilor Jarrett that that it's really O'Connell at this point who's the steward of the St. Cantius Church. Whatever their for-profit mission, which we give them a lot of latitude about, they are the steward. They are the owners. And they knew it was a church when they bought it. I understand that O'Connell provides housing and new tax revenue and growth in our city. But I think like anyone operating in our community, like really any human, they have a sacred responsibility to enhance the public history and beauty around them in their domain. We all do that every day. I don't understand why we don't expect that of for-profit entities as well. I am personally horrified anyone would acquire this church and then contemplate demolishing it. It's time that I feel that we insist on more from community entities like O'Connell. In other communities, this type of grant wouldn't even be allowed on the table. Public-private partnerships can be mutually fruitful, but this doesn't feel like a partnership to me. One of the main charges of council is to be the gatekeepers of hard-earned taxpayer money. And this is money right now that, people desperately need. And I feel in this vein, I can't really in good conscience, okay, $500,000 of their money to subsidize a private for-profit entity that, because frankly, we're concerned they won't do the right thing. I'm glad I hear the part about, it's very compelling to hear that we could make the money back in revenue, and that they've taken a hit with historic preservation. But as it's been pointed out, they can do whatever they want. And this is where, things can run off the trails. They say, and I'm not trying to disparage O'Connell, but we don't have anything in writing to say this is going to be market rate units, or to say that there's going to, what it's going to look like. We lose all that. That's not there. And if it were there, I would feel very differently. I feel that, too many people are hurting right now. In the end, this sends the wrong message about what priorities we have here in council. I will support and do everything I can to make sure this church is preserved. And I hope we can all work together to make sure that happens. And I actually have faith that we can. But this has been quite painful for me as well. But I have to say, I cannot support it as it stands now. Thank you.
Councilor. Councilor Moulton.
Thank you. I echo what my colleagues have said about the difficulty of reaching this decision. I've spent hours reading the correspondence, talking with people who I've known and whose opinions I've respected for a long time, who have offered opinions on the two different sides of this. For me, it comes down to what we have before us tonight, after almost or more than a year and a half of community discussion about this, is an opportunity for the council to preserve what I think we all agree is a structure that is historically, culturally, and architecturally significant to the Polish community in the city, as well as the city as a whole. I want to particularly address the question about the CPA money. $335,737 would come from CPA funds only earmarked for historic preservation. I've looked at the other, there are 4 other historic preservation projects in the pipeline for the autumn round. One of them's on the agenda tonight, the small grant. I've looked at the other 3, and I think that the preservation of St. John Cantius compares favorably with the other historic preservation projects in the pipeline. So I don't have a question about that $335,000. I think what's difficult for me is the expenditure of the additional $164,000 that comes out of general CPA money. and competing particularly with affordable housing. And I agree with my colleagues that that's my top priority as well. But I will point out that we have already this year, we've approved $664,000 for the Valley CDC Prospect Place project on Bridge Road. That will produce 60 affordable apartments. And as was said earlier by Brian Adams, there are a total of 5 community housing projects for affordable housing in the autumn pipeline, totaling $415,000. I hope those come to us with a strong recommendation from the CPC, and I will vote enthusiastically for those affordable housing projects. That will be over, if they do come to us, that will be a total of over $1 million this year, 2022, that the council has approved for affordable housing. Yes, I wish that the outcome was different with the O'Connell project at St. John Cantius. Like Councilor Foster, I wish the city's offer to buy it for a resilience hub had been accepted. I wish that O'Connell had seen a way to provide some affordable housing among the 10 units that they proposed for the church, and as others have said, that market rate housing is needed. I have to look to the recent Donahue Institute report from March that showed that housing at all income levels is needed in the region, including Northampton. But for me, it comes down to it's not the perfect solution. It's not a solution that I will vote for enthusiastically. It provides forever preservation restriction on the building, which is an important part of, it's a landmark in Northampton. It provides 10 additional rental units. That's better than what I see. What I can reasonably conclude is the alternative, which is a pile of rubble and luxury condos. That's why I will vote to support the CPA request for St. John Cantius.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gore, and then Councilor Maori would like to speak again.
I agree with what my other councilors have said. I've gone back and forth on what I think about this. I met with the Friends of St. John's Cantius Church, and I just think that given the history of the church, that this would be a good use of the funding. I wish that it could be a resilience hub. I wish it could be affordable housing. But I don't, like Councilor Moulton said, I don't want it to be a bunch of condos there. I don't want it to get demolished. It's a beautiful building, and it's a landmark in our city. And I think we need to preserve it. And I think it's not the best option, but I think right now it seems like the only option we have in front of us. And so I would have to support, saving the church in this way. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gore. Councilor Labarge. Councilor, I think you're muted still.
I guess I did. Anyways, I said what I had to say in finance. I questioned Sarah LaValle on some of the concerns I had. I am not taking this very lightly at all. I am definitely into affordable housing. Definitely into affordable housing and always have been. In Ward 6, I welcome affordable housing, Habitat right down the line. The $500,000. And we're putting in, I think I had, and we were told 10 market rate apartments. You have to make good money to pay that type of rent, which is a good, probably 1,000, maybe 1,090 a month, 1,900 a month up there. It's a good location. They shouldn't have a problem renting it. It brings you right on to 91. That's fine. I just have a problem with coming in and asking for $500,000 for our taxpayers' money at a critical time. A critical time here for everywhere of affordability. And I was very glad to hear Councilor Nash talk in Finance Committee, how tirelessly everybody worked in Ward 3. Anonymous people coming in and donating money and hiring people that are extremely knowledgeable about the church in general. St. John's Canyon Church is absolutely beautiful. I've attended weddings in there, and even in the back, the building, a lot of benefits in that area. I have looked at the condos that they have built in back of that post office. I don't know how many times. Today I was down there for our business, family business, and picking up mail and so forth. And it's like, wait a minute. Here we have CPA money at $500,000. And we're being told that I feel like a hostage right now. That's the way I put it. And I've never felt this way with CPA money, because I've always have voted for everything through the CPA. And I said, oh my gosh, if they take down the church, which is a beautiful church, are we going to have, again, Holly Street loaded with high-end condos? It will happen. There's no question about it. And I think, as I said in finance, and I said it before, I've had people call me about the D transfer in Holyoke, where they made $3,454,000 selling condos over there. So I'm worried. I'm really worried about Ward 3. I'm worried about exclusive condos packed in to that area. And the historical preservation, I'm very happy about that. It was explained very, very thoroughly, which Councilor Nash did, and so didn't Sarah LaValle in finance. And that made me feel a little bit more comfortable about that. To be really honest with you, I'm having a problem with this. It's market price. It's not affordable as far as I'm concerned, and it's not. I hear market price, yes. You better be making some good money, because we have not heard about, is that going to include their electricity down the line or their heating? We don't hear any of this. So I need to protect Ward 3. I will support this $500,000. Believe me, I'm not taking this lightly, but I don't want to see exclusive condos being placed at that site. The way I see these condos now, I'm not happy about it, period. I'm not happy about what has been going on down on Holly Street. So I feel that I am voting in the right way when my heart is telling me, even though I'm upset about the $500,000, I'm upset also about the $3,454,000 that they've had made and the tax credits here. I mean, I have to agree. I mean, nobody has seen the books at all. So I am going to go ahead and support this. And I have no choice because I'm just so afraid that that church will be torn down and those luxury condos will be placed there. And that is the only reason why I am supporting this. And it's a bad time here now for people in our city, which Rachel Muir, our counselor from Ward 7, had stated. We're looking at taxpayers' money, and I've said this several times. But because of my fright of what we've been through with Holly Street, tearing down the homes, like I said, one of the older homes, which could have been renovated, and where we could have had somebody buy that house, affordable housing right there. So I am going to support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
You're welcome.
Counselor Elkins.
I don't want to belabor my thoughts or points on this much, but or at all. I don't want to belabor it at all, but I would say that it is a difficult situation. I will say that I have been visiting in various capacities this project since before my time on council, when I was on the planning board. I can tell you that there was disappointment expressed on planning board before when they announced that they were going to first be seeking demolition. There was a feeling that the project had been not presented to us. The big pictures of the church right there and all the pretty drawings and things like that were shown to us. That being said, I also agree that that affordable housing is very much my priority, a priority for me as well, and is something that I ran on. I also, however, ran on a very strong conviction that we have a housing shortage across all sectors of the market. It does matter that everybody who wants to live here can live here. I don't think that this takes away from the many other projects and ways in which we're supporting affordable housing in the city. And I also think that it's important that I think it's also important that we foster what we can in regards to market rate development. I think it's very important. I want to say also that many civic processes have gone into this, hours and hours and hours of due diligence by people working, city staff, in the city planning department, in the mayor's office, every single commission and board, and us as counselors who've touched it. I don't say that because I defer necessarily to everybody else's decisions and thoughts on it who have voted to recommend this and sent this on to us in that regard. I do say that the systems of our government, of how we make the city run and how much we depend on the time and effort and service, which is to answer some folks' questions from public comment, why I believe everybody here does it, is a true call to service. That I respect that process, and however, whether we agree at the end or don't, whether we agree or we don't agree at the end or come to the same conclusion, I think this is how it's supposed to work. There's a group of people who wanted to see this church saved. There are a group of people who wanted, who have opposition. They've expressed their opinions about that, and we've heard them. We've done the work. And the various committees. So with all of that said, I only just say that as an ode to the process and to the work that has been done, and that I respect it very much. So with that said, I do support this. There's no doubt in my mind that this will end the church, and we don't have to feel good about that or how we the position that we've been put in or whether or not we wish, but I just the dollars and cents calculation says to me that it'll be the end of the church. If we don't approve, I'd happily approve less too if they came back to us. I just don't have any confidence that that's going to happen. So that is all.
Thank you, Councilor Elkins. Councilor Perry.
Well, so if we're going to make it a whole roundtable here, I guess I should throw my 2 cents in. And my thoughts echo most of what my fellow councilors say. You know, I've deliberated a lot about this entire situation. I've read countless emails. I've talked to people on the phone. And the one thing that stood out to me is how this issue has touched and resonated across our city. And I know things seem very somber right now, but something that stood out to me from some of the comments was thinking about the future. And I know that it would be a shame to lose such a church for the future, to have, you know, I think of what my kids would see when they're walking down that Hawley Street, going to the Center of the Arts or something, and they see that church and they know that, you know, it was saved from destruction. And I also find it inspirational because not only has this been, for me, an example of how dedicated our city servants are, but also how dedicated our communities are to speaking out, to doing research, to really engaging. You know, this is a special city. And so, you know, while I can't say I wholeheartedly endorse this spending of money, I will say that I do endorse it because it is important for the future of Northampton. And I look forward to more of these conversations. This is not going to be the first time. There are other churches, there's other projects that are going to happen. And I thank everyone who has been involved in this, all the public, all of the you know, cities people who are here, and all the counselors for really taking the time and due diligence to think about it and really be concerned about what our constituents, what our neighbors, and what our friends, family, you know, will have to deal with this decision. So that being said, I do support this. And I will turn it over to our council president's well-planned speech.
Councilor Maori, did you wanted to add something or ask a question?
Yeah, yes, I originally raised my hand. I was hoping, President Nash, that at some point after your beautiful speech, that we explain about, this type of vote for an appropriation and the supermajority, just because I remember my first term on council, that was confusing how many folks needed to vote a certain way to pass financial appropriation.
Fair enough. This is financial order, so it requires 6 votes.
Yes.
So,
yes. And the only other process note I kind of had was, I would be interested, whatever happens tonight. I really have some very big questions about how we got here, and I'm not going to point fingers. I haven't done the work that that others have done, but I question these tenets that are put in front of the central business architect for when you committee for when you can demolish. I'm very concerned about how we got here, and I would welcome a process in which we could take this as a case study and try to see where can we intervene. I don't know what's in the purview of a municipality, and oftentimes there isn't, but I would welcome that process.
That makes sense.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Nash. Just to end off, because I've been just to the point of my head ready to fly off of me with all the phone calls and emails and everything. But I want to thank definitely the CPA Commission and the Historical Commission and everybody, really everybody in Ward 3 who's worked very, very tirelessly of helping to save the church. And Deb Hansen, she was excellent to talk with, and I was glad that she talked in our finance committee tonight. So anyways, I want to thank the CPA Commission because they worked very tirelessly, and it was not easy for them to just go ahead and make a decision like we're struggling on it. And you've heard the reasons why I'm supporting it, because I'm afraid that they will tear it down and put high-end condos in there, and I don't want that. I think Holly Street has gone through enough already. So anyways, thank you, Councilor Nash, for letting me thank who I wanted to thank.
You're welcome. Okay. So before I start talking, Carolyn, where's Carolyn? Is she here? I'm sure she's here somewhere. There's a lot of people here. Carolyn.
She just
Right
turned her
there.
camera on.
There she is. Hello, Carolyn. So Carolyn, thanks for being here. And that and the question of central business architecture and the criteria for weighing whether or not demolition would be permitted. Could you speak a little bit to that? Because I think that there are protections there, but I think it's pretty evident to the folks who've been following this that that decision, that the decision for demolition kind of hangs in the balance. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, I think that's how we got here. Is there was an initial application to the Central Business Architecture Committee for demolishing the building, and under the rules, the Central Business Architecture Committee can approve demolition. There are 3 criteria that they need to review. So the applicant filed one early 2021. But did not provide enough information for the committee to find all the criteria had been met. And so basically said, if you come back with full criteria for us to evaluate, then we can do that. So they filed again. But yes, they're given the ability to approve demolition for the purposes of creating, encouraging, and making sure that a new building is put in its place to create vibrancy for downtown. So that's the process. And so, yes, they were in the process of that application, but asked for continuation, multiple continuations, actually going on a year now, so that they could reevaluate what it would take to save the building and what kind of support, other outside support they could put to help them save the building and reuse it and repurpose it.
And my sense was, is that it's this close. And do you think, how would you can't predict, but does this, if we don't approve this tonight, how does that impact how CBAC will evaluate that permit should it be asked to be considered? Is that, or is that?
I'm not going to speak for the committee because the committee would have to evaluate that, but this was sort of another mechanism for them to, if they show that there's not funding and that they don't have the financial capacity without that public support of funding, then that would be another facet to their application to show that this was not financially feasible to save the building. And so that would just be another factor in there that they would provide to the Central Business Architecture Committee for evaluation.
And would you say that this was not their first choice to preserve the church, that their first choice was to go in another direction, and that we're only here because of the public support to repurpose the church?
They presented to the Central Business Architecture Committee that they had intended to save the church, and they in fact had a couple of different scenarios that they had evaluated when they first purchased the church, and then COVID hit, and sort of those opportunities vanished because the market changed. And that also potentially affected their ability to get other funding, like tax credits that has come up in this conversation and many other conversations. Tax credit financing is a mechanism used of their public dollars specifically targeted for private sector investment and redevelopment. So that's already a program that is solely directed towards private investors, for profit investors, but that's not an avenue for them on this project as a housing project because of the specific details about this building and the way they're reusing it.
Thank you. Yeah, and Carolyn, thanks for sitting through all of those meetings. There was what, like 3 of them, but with a lot of continuations.
More than right, many, yeah.
So, thank you, Carolyn. Let's see. You know, so I had a speech that's a little cheerier than what's going on right now. But first of all, I just want to thank the folks who've worked on this. I want to thank Tris Metcalf. Tris developed the concept of putting housing in the church. That was front and center at that rally last summer, and I think that definitely had an impact because that's what we're looking at today. Tris had an idea that was not seen as an option here by O'Connell that may have preserved the interior of the church, but I do credit his idea for housing in here for him. I want to thank Fred Zimnock. I want to thank Arnie Levinson, John Dunn, Terry Masterson, Marvin Ward, Maria Tomasco, especially Elaine Gendu and Deb Henson. Those 2 have been dynamos in terms of just like keeping this on track. Both Carolyn and Sarah know them very well by now. And they're the ones who, did all of the outreach so all right, I'm just going to go on with the thank yous here. So to Bill Krause and his team, I want to thank Matt Welter in O'Connell Development Group for their willingness to work with that team. I want to thank also the anonymous donor who donated $50,000. Oh, it has paid for more than $50,000 worth of consulting that otherwise would not be in this process. So when people are asking for due diligence, that the ideas that were brought to O'Connell, actually, there was designers, architects, engineers that went into the building to evaluate it and to really explore the ideas. It's one thing for us to say, it would be great as this, but to have, the actual work being done to make sure that's possible, that there was $50,000 in due diligence there. I want to thank all of, there was the planning board, city council, going back to 2012. Carolyn and Wayne had the vision to rezone this to central business to get it on the, so to find a path to preserving this church. And in fact, that's the first time it went on my radar, was back when Carolyn made that presentation. I want to thank the planning board for all their work. They actually saw a project go all the way through for repurposing for this to become a senior living community. Councilor Elkins might have been part of that, and it was an impressive project, and that would have preserved the church as a restaurant. And that I was really hoping that was going to go through. It had neighbor support, and then the financing for it evaporated. I want to thank Andrew Crystal and Matt for holding a community outreach meeting in 2019 to start talking about what this project and property would look like. That's where a lot of neighbors showed up, and I said that I'd be working to help preserve this church and this structure. Again, thank you to the planning board. I saw Councilor Elkins mentioning how difficult it was to weigh this, the current condos going in and how it was separated out, that St. John's was separated out of that project. And that also went to the ZBA. I want to thank Central Business Architecture, a lot of meetings, and also, as we've heard, that demolition permit still is hanging there. I want to thank, especially thank both the Historic Commission for weighing in on the value of this building, and then the Community Preservation Committee for their work around evaluating that this was a proper use of CPA funds. And I have to say, that's, prior to them weighing in so strongly and thoughtfully, I was not on board. And the Friends of St. John's will tell you in my emails, I was like, this just does not make sense, because I was deeply concerned about this piece of using public dollars to go to some private party, whether it's a corporation, whether it's an individual, that there needed to be some sort of interaction between the public and that property. But I do recall many years ago, while evaluating whether or not to fund some repair over at the old jail, and that funding got turned down. And I remember saying to Lori Sanders, yeah, I think that was the right thing. And she said, Jim, at some point, it's going to come up where you're going to have a hard vote. There's going to be a hard decision that's going to have to be made, because as Sarah LaValle has pointed out, that the majority of our historic buildings are in private hands. And that, so we've been through a lot of meetings. You guys have all heard all of the many ideas that we are, that in the, that we've talked about 10 units here, but overall on this property that's moving forward is that there'll be over 40 units where there were none before. And that in a city that desperately needs housing, that this, that's a good thing. So, all right, so here's a story, and this, I'll end on this. So for my 60th birthday, my wife bought me a fancy guitar, which is, for me, it was fancy. It was over $1,000. And that, at first I was just like, I'm like a cheapo with my instruments, but I've been playing guitar for over 45 years. And so I finally had this nice instrument. And the first time I picked it up, I said, that's $1,200 to play this guitar. And then the next time I picked it up, that's $600 to play this guitar. Here we are 4 years later, and I've got it down to about $1 for all the times I've picked it up and played that guitar. And that it was an investment for me in the future of what it meant for me to have a good instrument. And that the investment here that we're looking for, I know it's a hard ask, but that this money will continue to pay off. I know it's a really big ask right now, but I said this in finance, that that residents of Northampton, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, will be able to look at that building, and we know the way numbers are going, and they'll look at that number that we spent today and they'll say, wow, that must have been easy. They have no idea.
Councilor,
But if we spend that money today, if we approve, then we will preserve this building for forever. And that's what this is about. It's about forever. It's not about a one-time deal, you know, O'Connell gets money. No, it's about us getting the future of that building. So those are my remarks. I see Councilor Labarge has her hand raised.
yes, I would like to ask you a question, Councilor Nash.
Sure.
If the church had to be taken down,
Mhm.
how many condos would fit in that area?
So the plans that they presented to Central Business Architecture were 5 condominiums, similar in design to the ones that are going up there right now.
By the post office, you mean?
Yes, they're all part of the same development, and they would be similar in design and materials.
Wow, okay, thank you very much for that info.
Sure. Thanks for listening to my long speech, everybody. I could have made it longer. Counselors, any more thoughts? Counselor Jarrett and then Counselor Maori.
Thanks, everyone. I really feel like everyone's given this a great amount of thought, and that it's clear we are all voting our conscience here. So thank you all.
Same to you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Maori.
That's okay. It's a process thing. We'll talk later.
Oh, did I do something wrong?
I'll just hold grades up throughout the meeting, and you'll.
Well, I
know.
didn't see
Yeah.
Counselor Jarrett nodding or anything, so.
No, it's something else. Yeah, it's okay. I just realized that we're probably losing steam. We need a break soon, and I'm sure we want to vote before that.
So do we have a motion? I don't think we do.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Counselor Elkins, seconded by Counselor Moulton. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
No.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
No.
and Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-2. And
Supermajority. Explain the supermajority.
The super much.
I thought you were going to explain to the council what.
Well, he said that he
Oh,
already
he
did
did.
it.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
he
I missed it.
yeah, it required 6 votes because it's a financial order.
Thank you. I just wanted to take that learning moment.
Okay. All right. There was a request for a break.
Yes.
Let's take a break until 9:35, and then we'll be taking up that zoning matter. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
has changed rooms, I think. All right. Okay. All right. It looks like we have a quorum back in the room. Now to item 22158. This is a zoning ordinance that is, let's see, 22158, in order to amend the zoning map on Chapel Street. This is in second reading. It was referred to the planning board and legislative matters. Positive recommendation from planning board, positive recommendation from legislative matters just the other day. And Laura, can you pull this up so we can just look at the map? And this is for 31 Chapel Street, or if you use Google, it's for 31 Prince Street. And the important part is that what's on the map here is correct. And this is to rezone this property, which is currently URB, to PV. And I know that Carolyn is here. And well, actually, you know, how about this? Counselors, do you feel ready? Carolyn is here for questions. And maybe I could ask Counselor Foster to speak to this, since I think she's also sponsored this.
Counselor Gore did as well.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I similar to you, Counselor Nash, I had a little speech prepared. Some of you have already heard it, so apologies. Laura, can you make Marissa a co-host? I think she had to rejoin from a different computer.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought she just was being really friendly.
Lots of waving.
Mm.
So I'd be glad to give just what would be helpful, a real quick overview, or
yeah, what was the intention of this rezone? It's been, you know, it's been to planning board, it's been to legislative matters, both public hearings and right? Yeah, public hearings both.
Yeah. So what it is the planned village zoning, which includes Village Hill, and then south of Village Hill to what used to be Colmorgan and is now L3. And then further down the neighborhood, Earl Street and the east side of Laurel Street, which if you look at that map, it's kind of that whole area, that zoning was for the redevelopment of the former state hospital. And kind of nooked into that is the property we're talking about where the former Metrics Automotive used to be. There's a few houses and other parts of that triangle were not included in the planned village because they were already existing structures. So the planned village was really designed for what was going to be open space, open land to be redeveloped with the former state hospital. So where this property comes into play is that Metrics Automotive, which used to be there, and it was a beloved automotive shop, lots of people took their cars there, been operating for a long time, was a non-conforming use. That property is actually zoned for urban residential B, which matches much of Chapel Street, the west side of Laurel Street, Grove Street. And so Metrics was there, it was a non-conforming use. And the intention of rezoning that lot to planned village is to allow for more development opportunities. It's kind of a funky lot. If you look at the map, it's a triangle of land with giant curb cuts. It's completely asphalt and a garage. And to build there for something that conformed with urban residential B is nothing's impossible. Things can always happen, but it would be a very expensive proposition. It's a really challenging lot. And the idea of rezoning that lot to planned village is to allow for more opportunities with redevelopment there. So it doesn't match the sort of the rest of what's planned village zoning, which is land that was purely for the redevelopment of the state hospital. So it's a little bit of an outlier in that way. And actually, I have some more information that I had said at the Legislative Matters hearing the other night that I'll add to this here as well. And then Carolyn has been just incredibly helpful with answering questions. So I'm sure between Carolyn, Councilor Gore, and I, we can answer any questions if there are any. I did want to talk a little bit about the planned village zoning. I heard it characterized in public comment as a planned village equaling a treeless wasteland. And I want to be really careful because I'm the counselor that represents Village Hill as well. And another one of your colleagues lives in Village Hill. And I can tell you Village Hill is not a treeless wasteland. It's a lovely, walkable community. Nearly 50% of the housing at Village Hill is designated affordable housing. It's a, kind of a tremendous mixed income housing community. When it's walkable, when my boys were just learning how to bike, Village Hill is where I would take them to ride their bikes because these kind of wide open streets, not a lot of traffic, wide open sidewalks. So there's a lot going for it. And many of you know that I work, when I'm not a city councilor, I work with people who have disabilities and veterans. And several years ago, I was talking with a veteran who lives with disabilities, and he was telling me about the new apartment that he lives in. And I asked him where it was. And it happened to be 35 Village Hill Road, which is new affordable housing from the community builders. And the first thing he wanted to tell me was about the beautiful view out his window and how lovely it was there. And it really is. There's, there are a lot of new trees that are still growing. Many older trees were preserved, but it's a livable, walkable, lovely neighborhood that I represent. So I just wanted to make sure I clarified that. And this zoning change, Carolyn worked with me, quite a bit, and Councilor Gore over the last few months to bring this out. So she first met with Councilor Gore and I back in June to discuss this zoning change. We held, the three of us held a neighborhood meeting that included residents of Village Hill, as well as residents of the neighborhood south, which includes the Chapel, Earl, Lowell, Laurel, Grove, and Rust Ave neighborhood. Carolyn's answered many phone calls, been a lot of real confusion and misinformation about what the zoning change may mean. And so last week, Director Mish and I held another meeting for residents of the neighborhood south of Village Hill to help address some of those concerns. As I mentioned before, this property is a little bit of an outlier. It doesn't quite fit the reasons, the original reasons for planned village zoning, and yet it makes sense on this specific property. And when we heard in planning public comment, some confusion because the planning board, just looking at the map, you look at the map on the ordinance, you see that triangle of land, and to them for, sort of map making sense, it made sense to consider zoning that whole triangle of land for planned village zoning. But the lot we're talking about is unique and different from that whole triangle. It's a lot without another use, but also in that triangle is a small church, a single family house, and a 4-unit apartment building that we're not talking about, and that already have uses and that don't necessarily need a zoning change. What did I say? Oh, look at that. I'm already at the end of what I wanted to say. I skipped over my bullet points. So I am one of the co-sponsors of the order to consider this zoning change. And, just to be sure my comments are properly represented, I support the change for 31 Chapel, Prince Street, for that area. I don't see a reason or support a larger zoning change for that whole triangle of land. Thank you, Councilor Nash. I'm done.
Thank you. Councilor Gore is the other sponsor. Would you like to add some remarks?
Councilor Foster, most of what I thought. I mean, I live up here in Village Hill. I think it'll add some uniformity to the zoning to have that be PV zoning over there across the street. Yeah, I just agree with what Councilor Foster said.
Thank you. Councilor Labarge.
Yes, this is for Councilor Karen Foster. I have a question. The yellow house that's next to it, is that going also?
There's metrics, and then to the west of it is a small single family house, and then another single family house. And neither of those single family houses are included in this requested change.
Okay, because it looked like there was tractors in back of it today and so forth like that.
Director Mish may have more information than I do, but I believe it's been needing work, but that's not included in this.
Oh, okay. It must be going up for sale because it looks like it's empty.
It has been purchased, and actually that's the thing I forgot to say before. It was really important to me to consider this change as for the neighborhood and on its own, and not for any benefit of a specific developer. And I believe that this change meets that, but it has been purchased and the sale went through a few weeks ago.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We've had an introduction. Any questions about this? This is on second reading, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Labarge.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Gore. Okay. Any further discussion? Councilor Jarrett.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that we talked a lot in legislative matters about how right now, because of the pre-existing non-conforming use, the owners could go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to try to do a different non-conforming use. And the change to PV zoning adds in design guidelines. And that the planning board will have a high degree of ability to guide this development, much more than the usual site plan review. So I think that this puts the development of this lot in a better position for everyone, as opposed to the current situation.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, I want to echo what Councilor Jarrett has said, that, yeah, the design guidelines at Village Hill are actually pretty significant, and that I think that in many ways they're a model for what we could do elsewhere in the city. I also want to say that the setback here changes, because when you build up to under the current zoning, the setback would require, much less of the lot could actually be built on. And with the PV zoning, you can build structures more up to the street and actually better use the lot. Setbacks are fine if you have a rectangular lot and you're set back from a street, but when you have a narrow lot, those setbacks make it so you can just use a little sliver to actually construct a structure. So anyway, yeah, and also I want to reiterate what Councilor Foster said about, because there was concern about where else is this going, and that Councilor Foster said that for her that this is as far as PV is going to go for and she doesn't see a reason for it to go further. And I concur with that, but I also appreciate her making that clear to her constituents that she will continue to have that opinion about, where the zoning will go here. So, okay. Any other thoughts? All right. Hearing noted, more discussion. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Nash.
Yes. Okay. That item, I forget the number here, it's way down at the bottom here. 22.158 has passed. Okay, next up, we go back up. Now we get back on our agenda here, and we're down to financial orders and first reading. And I want to thank the mayor and the finance director for hanging out for this long. And oh yeah, we have DPW here as well. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, city staff. Okay, first up, we have 22.178 in order to appropriate CPA funds for Northampton, New Haven Canal Greenway repairs. Sarah, I believe she's here to speak to this. Sarah LaValle.
I am sorry, I was just having a snack.
You gotta share, come on.
So usually the Community Preservation Committee funding recommendations come in one big lump, all following the final review and recommendation by the Community Preservation Committee. But there are two that are being presented a little bit earlier in the funding round cycle this time, totaling $123,000. The next one was submitted as part of the small grants review process, and this one was submitted as a time-sensitive project for which funding is essential right now. So that the CPC has in addition to their two regular funding rounds, has an expedited review process. And this allows for applications for work that require fast track funding due to time constraints, such as a deadline for matching or leveraging funds in a grant opportunity. And this recommendation is one of those. The Canal Greenway Retaining Wall project has already received a state Mass Trails grant award, and allocation of CPA funds will allow a contract to be signed to ensure that this necessary work will be able to be completed in time to utilize these state funds. So I don't know how familiar all of you are with the Greenway just south of downtown. So as it passes behind Forbes, if you look to your right, there's a retaining wall that's been crumbling for a number of years. It's been progressively getting worse. It definitely will need to be addressed in the very near future. We've happily been able to secure a Mass Trails grant to allow that work to take place. Construction costs are ballooning, this work needs to be able to be completed by the end of June 2023. So the Community Preservation Committee agreed that this is something that it made sense to bring to City Council separately to allow a contract to be signed and the work to begin.
Okay. Counselors, any questions? And this is a financial order in first reading.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move this to the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Labarge, seconded by Counselor Jarrett to have this go to the consent agenda for our next meeting.
I just have a quick question, Counselor Nash.
Go ahead, Counselor Foster.
Sarah, do you know, I'm assuming the trail in that section would need to be closed during work. Do you have a sense of the timeline or what that would mean to trail users?
It will be a temporary closure. Director Carolyn Mish is here and might be able to answer some detailed questions about construction. But again, this would just be temporary during construction and would prevent a long-term closure if there were a larger wall failure later.
Of course.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how long. We won't know until we have the contractor, right? So once we get the contractor secured, then that person will have a phasing plan or sort of construction timeline. And at that point, we would definitely actually seek out assistance from you all for sure to notify your constituents of when we anticipate that trail closure to happen.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to send this to consent agenda. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Okay. That item 22.178 will be on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Next up is 22.179, in order to appropriate CPA funds for Parsons House collection storage. And I'm assuming Sarah's here to speak to this. And
Sure. So over the past few years, Historic Northampton has come to the Community Preservation Committee several times for these small grant applications for appropriate collection storage. You know, Historic Northampton has an extraordinary collections that's available to residents and even those beyond the city who are interested in doing research and seeing things in their collection and all that it leads to. The story about Northampton's history, but to date, it's kind of been a hodgepodge stored wherever they can, and they've been trying to professionalize that and make sure that everything is stored properly in containers and areas that will make sure that they're preserved going forward and won't harm the collection. So this is I think the sixth in an application series to allow them to do that. And it will also enable Historic Northampton to complete a full inventory of their collection so that they'll all be available online and more easily accessible to the public.
thank you. Any questions? Okay. I'm looking for a motion here to either send this to the consent agenda or to Finance Committee.
I'd like
Move
to.
referral to the
Just
consent
enter the-
agenda.
Why do I suddenly, all right. I think Counselor Labarge was first, and then I'm sure it was Counselor
Karen,
Elkins who was weighing in too.
I think Karen.
Maybe I was going to send it to finance. I don't know. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
What are we
Okay,
doing?
so we have a motion to send it to the consent agenda.
Yes.
Made by Counselor Labarge, and I'm going to give it to Counselor Elkins for the joke.
It was very funny.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay. 22.179 will be on our consent agenda at our next meeting. Okay, next up, 22.180, in order to reprogram funds for Leeds School roof repair. This is in first reading. Pretty straightforward. $424,240 from the Leeds School chimney repair account to be reprogrammed for the purpose of repairing Leeds School roof. And I think our finance director is here to speak to this.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, a leak in the Leeds roof was identified, and school maintenance supervisor Tony Kuzners is asking for the $4,240 from the Leeds chimney repair account. That account has $18,000 in it, and the reason for that is because the chimney was actually replaced. If you remember back in 2015 and 2017, when we had an MSBA loan, we replaced 85% of the Leeds school roof, and the chimney was done at that time. So this money has been sitting there. So he's asking for the reprogramming of the $4,240 to fix the portion of the roof that was not repaired when we had the MSBA loan.
Huh.
Thank you. Counselors, any questions? Counselor Labarge.
Yes, it sure does sound like we need to move this because there's a big problem here. So this is very, very important.
Thank you. Counselor Jarrett.
Move to refer this to the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Jarrett and seconded by Counselor Moulton.
Moulton. Mhm.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Counselor Mochi.
Oh,
Okay, back to work here. So item 22.180 has been sent to the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Next up, item 22.181, in order to appropriate $750,000 from capital stabilization for radio system upgrade. This, I think, is, I believe both the, we have a number of people who want to speak to this because it's part of a bigger plan. And the mayor, do you want to take the lead on this, or is it Chief Davin or?
I'll kick it off and then I will pass it on. We've got a few folks here. So counselors that have been serving for a while have been hearing about this project for years. Counselors in their second term will remember it from capital improvements in 2020 and 2021. But I'm just going to give a little bit of history for the newer counselors. So this is a many-year interagency and interdepartmental project, including schools, that has been in the process for quite some time. Our current radio infrastructure was having disruptions in service due to aging equipment and technology since before 2015. And as technology has marched forward, new equipment stopped being compatible with our current systems that we have, and vendors were no longer supporting them. Parts couldn't be replaced. We were resorting to try and buy components on eBay to keep the system going. So it's been limping along for a while. Additionally, we had identified problem areas in the city where communication wasn't clear or non-existent, including within some buildings. So this is a very big system that touches many departments, and a consultant was brought in to look at the topography of the city, the tower locations, to study our buildings, look at some of the newer school buildings that have not worked well with our older radio technology, and we just didn't have communications in them. So the study for this appeared in the 2016 for the FY17 capital improvement program. Then from there, the multi-year plan has been built into capital improvements and has appeared in all the plans since then. And it was in the FY22 capital improvement plan for funding, and it was authorized for borrowing 2 Aprils ago, so April 15th, 2021 by the council. And then the borrowing was split into two parts. So as I've tried to outline, this has been in the works for years and very carefully planned. And the order that you have
before you is a final appropriation needed as we now finally are at the building phase. It's really exciting that we're getting close to this actually coming to fruition. And we're looking towards completion of it. So this and the next two orders that are on the agenda are part of this project. So I have Chief Davin is here and Director LaScalia. They're running point on this project. I see Director Pagan is also here and has been working on it. Many departments have been working on this, but I will send this to Chief Davin and Director LaScalia in a second to answer any questions and maybe sort of give you a sense of the scope of it. And I think I can maybe speak for us all and say that we're really looking forward to flipping the switch on this new system and getting it into operation. It's a huge project, but this is equipment that will carry us forward, and it touches, again, all parts of the city and is really critical for public safety, for all of our public works, our emergency management, and our school safety plans and our schools communications. So that's a little bit of an overview. And with that, I will send it over to the chief.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councilors. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. Yeah, so the mayor did a great job of explaining kind of the overview of our system. So our current radio system predates me. So, I've been here for 25 years now. And as the mayor said, we've kind of been piecemealing this thing for the last few years, adding antennas, adding different pieces of equipment to try to get past some of these problems we're having with coverage areas in the city. In some of our buildings, we have some of our radio equipment is on top of Cooley Dickinson Hospital, which we know is a private entity. Which, I'm sure it's safe up there, but again, it's not an ideal location for our equipment. We've got different equipment on different parts of city buildings to try to piecemeal this thing together. So. This really is a big project that, as the mayor said, public safety, public works, IT, our schools, everybody that uses a radio in the city is involved in this project. And our new radio system is going to give us the ability to reach those areas of the city that we can't speak to our folks. And we do have a really big problem inside of buildings. So when we have police officers and firefighters going into certain buildings, and the majority, every one of our schools is added to that list. Once our folks go into those school buildings, we lose complete contact with them by radio. So it's a huge safety concern, for myself, for Chief Casper. A couple of years ago, we actually lost contact with a plow driver during a winter storm. So, this project is near and dear to us. We really want to get this finished up, and this new radio system is going to be fantastic, and we will hopefully alleviate all of our concerns, and this new radio system will be here long after I'm gone. So I can answer any questions about the radio system itself, or I can pass it over to Donna and she can speak to the financial aspect of it. No,
I guess Donna's up.
Donna, you're up.
You're up, Director LaScalia.
I think she has to be a co-host.
Yeah, I just asked her to unmute, so.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I was muted. Okay, I appreciate it, Mayor and Chief, for kind of setting the stage of the project. So, as they both said, this is sort of a multi-year, very complex kind of interdepartmental project, and of course, DPW runs, fairly large, financially complicated projects. So that's sort of my involvement in this. And the chief and I have been working together to bring this across the finish line. So, we're operating in what I think we would all consider to be like a hyperinflationary environment where what we're finding is that we're having supply chain issues, and we're also finding prices increasing very, very quickly. But we're seeing the costs of materials and construction rise anywhere between 20 to 40%. And we're trying to stay on top of that. So the appropriation that we're asking for tonight is going to kind of get us over the finish line for this project. We have some level of procurement to wrap this up. We have connectivity that's required citywide, and radio tower sites that all need to be tied together, and equipment that needs to be installed at these tower sites. And what we hope to do is to wrap this up sooner rather than later. Obviously, there is some level of sense of urgency here given the city's needs. So this appropriation, again, will get us across the finish line, and it is our hope that we will not need all of the money. But again, in this environment, it's a little bit difficult to tell. So I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes. Donna, are we looking at like the tower on Glendale Road in the landfill? Are we looking at that? The tower on King Street? Where all this is going to take place for repairing or replacing?
Yep, that's correct, Counselor. So there's 3 tower sites,
Yep.
And you'll see those orders coming up here momentarily. But the tower at Glendale Road, there's a tower at Atwood, and there's also a tower in Haydenville that we need to attach equipment to, and that's going to create sort of a citywide connectivity that's actually going to run the system. So there is work that's going to be required at all 3 of those locations.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. How long will it take for this to be completed?
I think, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're probably looking at a commissioning, by this time next year. We should be substantially complete on this, right? Do I have my dates right?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilors? Councillor Jarrett.
Just want to really appreciate the capital plan, and that we get that each year and we get to go through it and approve it. And we get to learn about these long-term projects, so that when something like this comes before us, we feel like, okay, we know what these projects are. We know, and I feel good about approving them.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you, Counselor. It was actually, I went back through all of them to sort of find the first mention of it in the capital improvement plan. And it was interesting to go back through the past. Now it's, 6 or 7 years and find where we first started talking about it, and then seeing this project sort of build from asking for a study and then, to then building the components of it.
So Mayor, that basically with all of the planning that we've done so far, we came up with a budget, and we had a plan, and the current inflationary market has pushed us to go here. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair way to say it. And this is sort of the last, as this is the last bit that we need to finish this up. And it's, it's already in progress. And this is, as Director LaScalia said, hopefully we will not need this full appropriation, but we want to make sure that we can get this completed. And so we're building in sort of some cushion in this moment in time where you're seeing any sort of project having kind of some additional costs that you need to factor in.
Right. So we may see more of things like this, maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm hoping not for this project, but I am, I feel like we're hearing it everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And it, as we're entering into the capital improvement plan time, that is something that I think, Director Nardi and I are really going to have to take into account.
I can appreciate that.
Director LaScalia, did you have were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah.
You still can't unmute. If someone could make her a co-host, that would be great.
Sorry, thank you. I was just going to say, well, this is a multi-year effort. There are typically escalated costs associated with projects that run over multiple years. So as this has been running over multiple years, typically when I do capital planning for the DPW, I run like a 3 or 5% escalator. But as I mentioned, we're seeing anything between 20 and 40% right now. So that's why we're here with this amount of money. It's just not something that could have been anticipated when we were planning for this those years ago when we were running at 3 to 5%.
Okay. This is a financial order. And I will entertain a motion to either put it on the consent agenda or to send it to finance.
I would like to make a motion to place it on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Councillor Labarge and seconded by Councillor Moulton to put this item on the consent agenda. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
and Councillor Gore. Yes.
Okay, 22.181 will be on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Next up is 22.182, in order to reprogram funds for JFK radio antenna replacement. This is also a financial order in first reading, and I think we already know it is related to the discussion we just had. Is that right, Mayor?
It is, and I think Director Nardi, were you going to speak to this one?
Yes. So the antenna on the JFK school roof is having issues. It is causing interference with dispatch and the 911 radio channel. So it is part of the radio system, and it needs to be replaced. So school maintenance supervisor Kusners is asking for $5,158.43 to be paid out of the Leeds chimney repair account, or to be reprogrammed from the Leeds chimney repair account.
Okay. Any questions, councilors? Director Nardi, that means there's about $11,000 left in that chimney account, right?
About less than 9,000. There was
Okay.
18,000 to begin with. We're using about $9,398.
Okay.
So a little less than 9 will be left in there.
All right, thank you. Okay, hearing no more discussion, I'll enter, do we have a motion? No.
Move we place this on the consent agenda?
Second it.
Okay, so Councillor Foster made the motion, seconded by Councillor Labarge to put this on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Laura.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Gore. Yes. And Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay. The order to reprogram funds for JFK radio antenna replacement will be on our next consent agenda. Item 22.183, an order authorizing 30-year radio tower leases. This is in first reading, and this sure sounds like it's related, but to the previous orders.
Councilor Labarge gave us a little preview of it. So yes, there are 3 radio towers that are needed to make the connections for the system, and we need to lease space on them for the equipment for the radio system to provide the coverage that we need. As Councilor Labarge mentioned, there's one that's on Glendale, there's one at Atwood Drive, and then one on Haydenville Road. So these are lease agreements for the tower component of this project.
Okay. All right, any questions, counselors? Counselor Foster.
Not to make it too complicated, but I'm sure you did, and I'm curious about if you had considered city-owned sites that wouldn't have to be leased and kind of how you arrived at those spots.
Sure.
And I don't mean to make it like
No,
crazy
that's okay.
complicated, but
Who's best to speak to that one? Chief or Director Scalia or Antonio?
Yeah, I can jump in. So there was a comprehensive radio study that was completed that identified the locations that would best serve having coverage throughout the city. And Chief, if you can maybe just explain the challenges that we have with coverage for my water treatment plant personnel, kind of in the Leeds section of the city, as you sort of head towards the plant. That would be helpful. But these locations were identified as those areas providing the best coverage. But I'll let the chief talk to that a little bit.
Sure. So that's exactly correct, Anna. So that study identified, the different. So one of the biggest problem spots really is Leeds. We have a lot of what we call dead areas out there where once our folks get out there, we lose complete communications with them. So when that radio study went through, they do what they call like coverage maps, and they look at all the topography, all the vegetation, stuff like that. And then they identified these sites that were most beneficial for the towers that would give us the best coverage and eliminate those dead zones for us. So that's where these 3 tower sites were kind of picked or decided upon.
Yeah, and I'll also add that 2 of the sites are actually city-owned property. So Glendale and Haydenville are both city-owned property, but the city does not own the towers that is on city-owned property, that are on the city-owned property. So we need vertical space on those towers, which must be leased from a private company.
That's correct.
Okay, we did not get to a motion yet.
I'd like to refer this to the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Perry to put this on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Elkins,
Yes.
Councilor Foster,
yes.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, 22.183, an order authorizing 30-year radio leases will appear on our next consent agenda. Next up, item 22.184, in order to reprogram funds for AOM fire suppression systems. This is in first reading. And Mayor, who would you like to speak to this?
Director Nardi.
Okay.
Hi. Yes, so actually, Councilor Nash, you asked about this, and this is one of those orders that you were saying, maybe we'll see more orders that need a little extra funding.
Right.
And this is one of them. Director McCarthy has written to us and said that he has $150,000 in an account for the Academy Fire Suppression System. And of that amount, $16,000 is going to be used for the engineer and architect, leaving about $134,000 for the construction hard costs. He's been advised that he needs additional funding to have this project move forward because of this year's inflation, supply chain issues, and the existing labor shortage. He anticipates that the shortage will be about $75,000. So he is asking that we reprogram the $75,000 from the senior center window repair account for the Academy of Music Fire Suppression System. So that project can move forward and not have an impact on their programming. And then he plans to resubmit the senior center window repair project again in the SIP for FY 2024.
Counselors? Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we send it to the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second it.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Moulton, seconded by Counselor Labarge to place this item on the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
and Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Okay, that item 22, 1.184 that'll be on the consent agenda. All right, next up, item 22.185, in order to reprogram funds for Leeds School Playground. And I'm thinking Director Nardi's gonna speak to this.
Yes.
Okay.
So the funding for the Leeds School playground fence, the front playground was fenced in. That project was done, but due to the timing of when the funding for SIP came out and when it needed to be done, school maintenance supervisor Kuzners used his budget last year to do that. So this $25,000 is sitting in this account. And he would like to have it repurposed for updating the Leeds School playground and the actual playground area for he's identified needs there.
Okay. Questions, counselors? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Move to refer to the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Maori, and I think Counselor Elkins managed to second that,
Yeah. She,
ahead of Counselor Labarge.
nope, that's okay. You might be third.
Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we all like playgrounds. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Is she stuck again?
Yes.
Oh,
okay, Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
and Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
okay, 22.185, in order to reprogram funds for Leeds School Playground will be on our consent agenda at our next meeting. Our last financial order on first reading, 22.187, in order to approve a gift of sidewalk replacement adjacent to 1 King Street. I'm pulling up the order and okay.
So Director LaScalia is going to speak to this as
Excellent.
well, but I'm just going to start off with some thanks for this. This is one of these happy things where there will now be accessibility to this building, and we're grateful for this gift.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. So we've been working with representatives from JP Morgan Chase Bank. They're the new owners of the building. For those of you who maybe went into the jewelry store when it was operating, you might recall the entrance off of King Street. So that's the stretch of sidewalk that we're talking about, is the 60 feet that runs roughly just right in front of the King Street side of this building, you know, from the main intersection there, back towards the theater. And so if you recall, or if you've been down there, there's like an 8-inch step up into the building. And so the idea behind this project is to make that an accessible entrance. But in order to do that, in order to kind of make that 8 inches feather in a way that the entrance can actually be accessible, they have to work over a roughly 60-foot section of sidewalk in order to achieve the appropriate grade. So DPW does have the ability to accept gifts up to $10,000 of sidewalk replacement, but because we're talking about such a long stretch of sidewalk, and this is a little more significant than $10,000. That's why we're here asking approval. So we're very grateful that the owners are willing to give this gift to the city. So thanks. Happy to take questions.
Counselor Maori.
Not that I like to rehash things from the past, but I'm remembering another time when we had a gift of a sidewalk, and an issue I didn't think about came up, and I'm just want to make sure, and I'm kind of blanking on that, but I have this kind of, let's make sure we cover whatever that was. I'm sure the mayor and Donna, probably Director LaSpellia, remember.
Yeah, I think you might be referring to the sidewalk at 109 Main Street, which was a little bit of a different scenario,
Okay.
but that did, that did turn into quite a project, and it did end up coming before council a couple of times, and ultimately it was constructed in an accessible way. Yeah, this is very straightforward. We don't expect to be back here with an additional order for this project.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Counselors, any other questions? Well, I have one, which is we're going to do a downtown redesign, and I'm assuming that this matches what we're going to be doing is part of the rebuild.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the limits of that project are obviously quite extensive, but this will marry nicely with that.
Excellent. Yeah, the idea of that building, you know, we have a lot of buildings downtown that because of obstacles like this are not accessible to folks using wheelchairs. And anytime that we are you know, making efforts to address that. I mean, this is a case of, what was it, 8 inches is what we're talking about, and that becomes an entire obstacle to getting in that building. And so, yeah, so this is great. So, all right, counselors, any other questions or a motion?
Make a motion to move it to the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Perry, and I think Counselor Jarrett beat Counselor Labarge. Mary,
No, it was Jarrett. Jarrett did.
Right. So, okay. Motion on the floor to send this to the consent agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Nash.
Yes. Okay, this is where we get that point where all of that earlier work starts to pay dividends, so we get to skip some things. Okay, now we're up to orders. We have 22.173, an order for special legislation relative to fossil fuel-free new construction in City of Northampton. This is in second reading. This was introduced and discussed on September 15th. And I don't think I want to read. Oh, it's a little bit long.
Yeah.
But so Counselor Elkins and Counselor Maori, do you want to say a few words about this before we consider approving this?
Well, I think we read it all at the last meeting, and it didn't end up being referred anywhere. I think I took that to mean that there was a sort of it was neither sent to the consent agenda or sent to legislative matters. But all that being said, the only input I've gotten from this has been in support. I've heard some good things. I would just mention, and I think she's left the meeting, but she was here at the beginning, but Adele Franks was invaluable to our help with this and the NESC. So I'll let Rachel, if she has any remarks.
Yeah, I think, just what we, you already said so eloquently, that this is in keeping with our goals in Northampton, and we'll join a very good group of other municipalities who are passing very similar legislation, and also, of course, urging the state to do so at the state level, which would make it a lot easier. I do have a question for the mayor about process, and I'm just
go ahead.
Yeah, where does this go after this? Does it go back to your office and then to the state, to our reps and senator? I just can't remember if we.
I believe it next needs to go to Solicitor Seawald, who will create the home rule, and then I do think it comes back to us.
Comes back to, yeah, and then you can amend or edit, and then does it come back to council, or does it then go to the state?
I believe it comes back to council. So I think he writes the home rule, and then I think we have to vote on it one more time, but I will.
Right. Thank you very much, and thank you also for being supportive of this. As we people know, we cannot go forward with a home rule petition without the mayor's backing. So
gladly.
Excellent. Okay, so this is for approval to move forward. Any further discussion?
Councilor Jarrett has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Jarrett.
Yeah, just looking at it, it looks like the petition is within the order already. Is that something that, though, the Solicitor Seawald hasn't reviewed?
No, he has reviewed it. You're right. So maybe it doesn't need any further crafting by him. I will let you know if it's not coming back.
Okay.
If he has everything.
Might be that. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it might be that part of the process is we could, in theory, amend it in council, and so it should go back to the solicitor in any case. But go ahead.
Yeah. My other question was, I had a constituent that I referred to the two of you and to the mayor with some questions about just some detailed questions. They were generally supportive, but I did want to make sure that some of these questions about whether a backup system would be allowed in some cases, what the details of substantial changes. So I just wanted to check to see if that had, Councilor Mayo.
Well, I did get that email, and I did answer them, but that's kind of why I asked a question about process, was because of that email, and because I can't, until we have the final language, I wasn't sure how to answer some of the questions, because this is not actually necessarily the finalized wording and languaging. But I said I would get back to them after it went to back to the solicitor. But yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were in communication. with that constituent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So this is up for approval.
I will make a motion to approve this.
Okay.
Okay, so motion made by Counselor Perry and I think seconded by Counselor Maori.
Yeah, that was that.
Yeah.
You can
That's
say
how I
with jazz
interpret
hands,
it.
right? I mean, after 10, you can use jazz hands. Second, that's my new rule.
Oh, you gotta have a blowhorn. Right?
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yeah.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, 22.173, in order for special legislation relative to fossil fuel-free new construction in the city of Northampton has passed. Next,
Counselor Nash, sorry. If I could just make a note about what we just passed.
yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, just note that all this does is it gives us the power to create ordinances to regulate this. It doesn't actually, we still will have some leeway, I believe, if we are granted that power and to work out some details and such. So that everything, this isn't complete in terms of, once we're granted this power, it won't immediately take effect. We'll then have to craft these ordinances. That's my understanding.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's saying that we're still cooking the cake.
Well, and if the legislature will let us.
Right.
We would like to put it in the oven. We're going to stretch this metaphor beyond already.
People are getting tired and hungry. Okay. How are people doing?
Well, I'm using jazz hands, so I don't think that's good, but we don't have that much more to go, do we? Not really. I could hang in there.
22 state election. Forgive me if I read the ward and precincts, and I will skip everything else just in terms of getting this in the public record. Ward 1 Precinct A will be in Jackson Street School Gymnasium.
What's going on?
In Smith Vocational Agricultural High School Gymnasium Building B. Ward 3 Precinct A in the Senior Center Great Room at 67 Conn Street. Ward 3 Precinct B in the Senior Center Great Room at 60.